like take some time. So I figured out I wanted to do USMLE only in my final year of medical school. So until then, I never took my step one in like third year or a second year. आजकल तो सारे लोग ऐसे they take their step one in third year. मैंने नहीं दिया because I was not very sure if I wanted this. So I think I only decided कि when I did my first clerkship, I came in 2019 for one pediatric clerkship. So that's when I wanted to go through the healthcare system. I wanted to see कि am I a right fit? Will I actually enjoy this? Is this something that I want to do? So I went through that, and then I realized that I really like this. And comparison is a better option. So, like, I mean, now for ECFMG certification, you need to give an exam called the OET, right? So if you have given that, I think that is also accepted. But if you have not, then TOEFL is more accepted, like more widely accepted than IELTS. First aid for step one, because UWorld to बहुत मस्त है, like in terms of like it is very similar to the actual exam, and it's a very very vast question bank with good answer explanation सारे है. So it is a very like concise bank, and it is the gold standard. Like I have used other question banks also as practice, but I feel like UWorld to मतलब it was the gold standard for all my preparation. So UWorld was good, first aid was good, but I did
DNB का है कि छोटे छोटे वीडियो बहुत लोग जिसे मैंने देखा DNB की वीडियो उनका फ्लैश कार्ड बनाया अंकी में डाला फिर वो अपना चलना होता है.
Exactly. So Anki is also very useful software, I feel. For step one, step two, I didn't use Anki because I feel like step two was more clinical based, and that is more of like how you diagnose. But step one, I think I use Anki for biochem because biochem का exams
एक चार्ट पे सब कुछ पढ़ा देता है और वो
थोड़ा Dustin Williams. हाँ. वो step two के लिए बहुत अच्छा है. Step one के लिए it's not that good, but step two के लिए I think online में अच्छे. So application cycle starts every September. So it's like if you missed last September, you will apply this September. So application cycle is from September to March, like September 2022 to March 2023. So doing research is like वो compulsion नहीं है. See, like it's not that मतलब research नहीं है तो you will not get into residency at all. वो like that is one thing that people are kind of having that misconception. Because like I personally have seen people जिसके scores बहुत अच्छे हैं and they have barely like one or two papers and they got good residency position. So it's not compulsory, but वो क्या होता है कि in your CV, right, in the ERAS CV, there is a section for research. So जिसमें you have to write about places where you have presented, the like papers you published, papers that you're in the process of publishing. So it will not look nice if you leave it blank. And definitely I understand that in India it is very hard because हमारे medical schools पे, especially like in like most of our med schools, like there might be some exceptions, but I feel like in most med schools, they don't teach us, like research is not part of the curriculum, right? It's not something that is focused upon. So unfortunately, for an interview, in that the topmost was always letter of recommendation apart from scores. So scores ke apart from scores and personal statement, this is like the next thing that they see. So this is very important. And coming to the fact
मेरा नाम है रवि, आप देख रहे थे मेडिको पोस्टकार्ड और आज हमारे साथ है डॉक्टर अवंतिका का साथ चैतन्य अवंतिका. करंटली शी इज इन शिकागो. अब पूरी मस्ती कर रही है बिकॉज USMLE क्लियर हो चुका है. तो थैंक यू फॉर कमिंग ऑन द पॉडकास्ट. और
थैंक यू रवि फॉर गेटिंग मी ऑन. आई एम सुपर एक्साइटेड टू बी हियर.
तो पहली चीज है USMLE क्यों, मतलब होता है ना कि जैसे बहुत कंट्रियां हैं, कुछ लोग कनाडा के लिए शिफ्ट कर रहे होते हैं, ऑस्ट्रेलिया जा रहे होते हैं, जैसे मेरे यहाँ प्लैब कुछ लोग हैं. USMLE क्यों, कोई खास वजह या फिर बाकी यार सबसे अच्छा ये यूएसए चलते हैं घूमते फिरते हैं?
नहीं, आई फील लाइक USMLE का मतलब हर लोगों के डिसीजन में देयर विल बी ऑलवेज अ प्रोस एंड कॉन्स, यू नो, लाइक व्हाइल यू आर डिसाइडिंग. सो मतलब मेरे लिए माय ultimate goal is to be a neonatologist. So for me to even get into pediatric residency and then do a fellowship, this seemed like an ideal path. Like pediatric residency कर लो, उसके बाद fellowship, and ये सारी चीज मतलब एक ही place में हो जाता है, and plus it's easier to get into a fellowship program residency in the US. So with that, it kind of aligned with my career goals. Plus I love research, so research में मेरा बहुत interest है, and that I think, like, you know, also that here there is a lot of potential for research in clinical field and outside the clinical setting as well, so you can do that along with your residency. So in that way it kind of aligned with what I really had in mind considering what I was thinking myself as, you know, how I'll be in the future. So ऐसे मतलब goal सोचकर I was like, चलो ठीक है, I will go ahead with USMLE. But there are a lot of cons too, you know, like one thing, journey is quite expensive first,
ऑब्वियस
and
सी बात.
second thing is, yeah, so that is like the first thing out of the way. And second thing is, yes, you will be leaving your family behind in India, and you will be going there for 3-4 years, maybe more, depending on your fellowship and where you want to end up finally. So, wo matlab, there is always that problem, you know, you'll be leaving your family behind and starting a new life there. And also, यहाँ के education system, as in the medical health system, is also quite different from what we know in India, because everything is electronically managed, and you know, it's everything is on the EMR, the health record system. So you need to like completely like relearn how to like write your history, how to write your notes, soap notes, सारे EMR पे, rather than what we do in India, which you know we just write it down. So, and you know how to send prescriptions. Yeah, prescriptions directly you will get it at the pharmacy, so you have to send the prescriptions. So matlab, so there are quite a few nuances that you will have to relearn, like while you are you know, before you start your residency, and you know, while you're even doing a residency in intern year. So in that way, yes, there is a pros and cons, but it really, I think it depends on your future goals. Matlab, and if you want a good fellowship, or if you want to like pursue something like super specialty, I say, in the US, it's always better to do residency in the US, because it'll be easier for you to do a fellowship. So in that way, it's, yeah, that's pretty much why I chose USMLE.
सही है. ऊपर से प्लस ये भी रहता है मार्केट में कि हाँ, जो टॉप, ऐसा माना जा रहा होता है कि हाँ, अगर आप टॉप लेवल पे हैं तो फिर आप यूएसएमएलई के लिए जाएंगे एक बार के लिए, नीट पीजी
हाँ,
के
definitely.
कंपैरेटिवली.
No, but I don't think so. Like, मेरे college में सारे, like, a lot of people who were very brilliant and very smart also, they didn't want to take the USMLE pathway. So I think, like I said, it depends on your personal goals, because some people wanted to, you know, work in India, and they wanted to like stay in India. They didn't want to move. So if you don't like the idea of moving, then like going anywhere else is not a good option, because it will take at least 4-5 years for you to finish your entire like residency, fellowship, etc. And that even if you want to come back, वो मतलब बहुत साल लगते हैं.
अरे फिर
So
वो
that
तो
is,
कोई जरूरी भी नहीं होता कि आ पाए.
हाँ, मतलब वो भी है, because I mean US में if you get board certified, I think दुनिया में you can work anywhere. So in that way it is like, yeah, so like, you know, you will still have that option of working like anywhere in the world once you're board certified. But like, yeah, so it depends on your goals. So if like this path is appealing, and the way I feel like you should look about it is actually talk to people who have gone through that pathway, and then, you know, now they're residents there. So they'll be actually, you know, they'll say ki, matlab, this is the pros and this is the cons. So this is what I really liked, and this is the hardship I'm facing. So they will tell you both the sides of the story. So then it'll be easier for you to decide, rather than just reading online or कुछ ऐसे.
एक तो ये भी तो ना, ग्लैमराइज्ड है काफी यूएस ऑब्वियसली, क्योंकि हम सीरीज
हाँ,
और हर एक चीज यूएस की देख रहे होते हैं, एवेंजर से लेके जितने टीवी शो है, तो कॉलोनियल हैंगओवर में तो हम जी रहे हैं, प्लस एक थोड़ा ग्लैमर रहता है कि यूएसएमएलई है, यूएस का है, तो
definitely.
थोड़ा एक वो भौकाल रहता है, यूपी लैंग्वेज में कहें तो.
Exactly. So we only see the pros, right? But sometimes,
हम्म.
like when you talk to the people who are working here, then you realize कि मतलब both sides of the story है. But so then you have to decide कि तेरे goals कैसे हैं, and what kind of like, what would you want? Like, as in, would you want to move there, or would you want to stay in India? So वो सारे decisions, it will like take some time. So I figured out I wanted to do USMLE only in my final year of medical school. So until then, I never took my step one in like third year or second year. आजकल तो सारे लोग ऐसे they take their step one in third year. मैंने नहीं दिया, because I was not very sure if I wanted US. So I think I only decided कि when I did my first clerkship, I came in 2019 for one pediatric clerkship. So that's when I wanted to go through the healthcare system. I wanted to see कि am I a right fit? Will I actually enjoy this? Is this something that I want to do? So I went through that, and then I realized that I really like this, and comparatively I like this better. So इसलिए I decided USMLE. So I think वो भी actually, like, that's a good idea. You know, you can go ahead and do like 1 or 2 clerkships and then see if you like the healthcare system better. Do you feel like you'll fit better here? ऐसे. So
तो ऐसे ऑप्शंस होते हैं कि जैसे आपने फाइनल प्रॉफ दिया, उसके बाद ऑप्शन होते हैं क्लर्कशिप के लिए, लेकिन बिना यूएसएमएलई के कैसे?
yeah, you can definitely. I think a lot of clerkships, they don't really need your step scores. Some of them need your step 1 score, but आज वैसे भी step 1 pass fail है, so I think like it's not going to take as long as to study for step 1 as compared to step 2. But there are clerkships which don't need your step 1 score as well. Even universities, there are a few clerkships that they don't require. They require TOEFL, that is that English proficiency test. But apart from that, they don't need your step 1 score. So when I did my first clerkship, I didn't need a step 1 score to apply. So you can definitely go ahead with that. So
फिर मतलब बेसिक प्रोसीजर क्या है? जैसे जस्ट इमेजिन कि एक अभी फाइनल ईयर स्टूडेंट जस्ट पास आउट हुआ है, जैसे मेरा ही मान लीजिए इंटर्नशिप अभी चल रही है, इंटर्नशिप के बाद क्लर्कशिप के लिए जाना हो तो नॉर्मल ऑफिशियल यूनिवर्सिटी की वेबसाइट पे मिलता है या कैसा प्रोसीजर क्या है उसका?
So basically first you will need a visa. So that is important because आजकल visa की appointments ही कितनी लंबी है. So that is like the first thing you need. So for a visa appointment you will need like an acceptance letter from a clerkship. So where do you find a clerkship right now? I mean COVID के बाद अभी slowly universities are opening up. पहले COVID के time पे everything was closed, and before that मतलब सारे होती. So from 2019 to 2022 अभी तक it was a bit of a hassle to get a clerkship or an observership. It depends. So basically, like if you are still an intern, like if you haven't graduated, you can still do a clerkship because they consider you a medical student until you graduate. So you can still do clerkship. So what most Indian students do is you take a extension of your internship, you go do your clerkships, write your step, and then complete, because in NMC rules it is allowed to take an extension for a year. So that is an easier way to like go ahead with your clerkship, because otherwise you won't get absence from medical school in India to go and do clerkship, because those are our elective rotations. So they won't count for our grade, right? So we'll have to take an extension and go ahead and do it. So that is like that is what most Indian students do, because it is an extension that is definitely allowed by the NMC. So you can do clerkships until you graduate, and after that you can do something called an observership, which is basically like you don't have hands-on experience, but you can like observe. So you will still be in the clinical setting, but you will not be directly interacting with the patients. It's like a clerkship is more like hands-on. Like you can actually talk to the patients, do physical vitals, ऐसे मतलब you can actually do the full examination. But in observerships you can't do that. So yeah, so coming to how you get a clerkship or an observership, you go to university websites. That's the best way, because you just type in Google में a quick search like internal medicine clerkship or pediatric clerkships USA. You just type that and you will get like a bunch of university websites that are offering. Each of them have their own specifications, each of them have their own fees, each of them have their own like times, like as in months which it will be available, because not everything will be available all throughout the year. So you have to go through it and like figure out, is it a time that you can take a break and go for the clerkship, and and is how is the application process, how many students do they take. So each of them have their own like list of requirements. So that a common list I would say is like for applying would definitely be, if you have a visa like B1 B2, it's good, because then you don't need to wait for the visa invitation letter and all of that. Second thing, I think a TOEFL score. TOEFL score is something that they normally ask. Like almost every university elective wants a TOEFL score. I think it should be above 100 or 110. I think 110 is a safe score for TOEFL. And some need a step 1 score, some don't. It depends on the university. If you have your step 1 score, well and good, because some of them have limited spots and they will prefer to give it to someone who has already taken that step 1. And definitely applying well in advance, because some of them have like a waiting list of 4 or 5 months. So if you apply in May, you will get the spot in December or November. So it will take a long time. So applying well in advance, planning it well in advance. And I think they also need something called a dean's letter. So college pay, like you need your dean to sign off on it. So that they need something of that, and some kuch documentations. Yeah, they need your vaccination records, they need your CV, they also need a police clearance certificate here from India. So they have a lot of these small documentations that you need to send. Only once you send all these documents, then they will accept. And then if they accept you, they will send a letter of acceptance, which you can use for your visa approval if you need, or else you can just book your tickets once they send the acceptance, and that's how you get your clerkships. There are agencies as well. So normally during COVID, people would apply through agencies because it was just easier, and it is more expensive definitely. But agencies के through, मतलब if during COVID a lot of the universities were closed, so people applied through agencies and got into like hospitals and got clerkships there. So there's a lot of way to go about it. And some people, even if they know someone in the US, like if your like relatives or someone is working there as a doctor, they approach them and they try to find out like if they have any clerkships in that hospital or any hospital that they know. So there's a lot of ways you can get it, but like the easiest way, especially now since universities are opening up, is to go on the university website and look it up.
Well, basically there is only one thing required before the going clerkship is OET or other IELTS or TOEFL.
Yes, TOEFL is more. I mean, I don't think they accept IELTS, so I think
Okay.
TOEFL is a better option. So, like, I mean, now to for ECFMG certification, you need to give an exam called the OET, right? So, if you have given that, I think that is also accepted. But if you have not, then TOEFL is more accepted, like more widely accepted than IELTS.
ओईटी में मतलब ओईटी काफी लोग प्रिफर कर रहे होते हैं, या फिर मतलब एक चीज की रेंज मुझे लग रहा है काफी ज्यादा है ओईटी की, बट फॉर्म काफी महंगे होते हैं इसके, कॉस्टली होता है आईएलटीएस या फिर टोफल के कंपैरेटिवली, ऐसा कुछ है या फिर ऐसे?
No, OET ka, there is just one problem with OET is it's only held twice a month. So वो dates मिलना is काफी difficult because in India it's like only held in like a couple of cities and it's only held twice a month. So if you need to book your OET, you have to book it in advance and then you can't cancel or postpone the date because once you book it, you have to take the exam. And if you cancel, it's very expensive to like postpone it. So and that's an issue. That's a small issue with OET. But apart from that, OET is it's a decent exam to prepare for. Like I think I prepared for it for 2 days. Like मैंने ज़्यादा prepare नहीं किया because it's more of like just like about like the same thing like speaking, listening, writing and reading. So 4 components hote hain and it's very natural. Like it's not like you need to prepare much. I think the only thing people prepare for is there is a component called writing, so in which you have to write a referral letter or you have to write an admission letter for patients. So OET is basically medical based, right? So everything in the exam is medical based. So that is something that you need to prepare for because there's a particular format for it and you need to learn the format, literal, what to write, what to include, what not to include. Should not exceed the word limits. They have a certain word limit that you need to keep in mind. And you can't, and your spelling should be correct because there's no autocorrect there. So you have to make sure that spelling is ठीक है. So in that way, yes, it's that is one thing you need to prepare for. But other than that, it's quite easy. And it's more medical based as compared to IELTS. IELTS is like a general English exam. OET is medicine based. So in that way, I think doctors will find it easier to attempt OET rather than IELTS, like in any form.
हाँ, मतलब जो बेसिकली एक धारणा कह सकते हैं सोसाइटी में यही है कि ओईटी थोड़ा आसान है आईएलटीएस या फिर टॉफल की कंपैरेटिवली, पर इसके प्राइसेस हाई है।
हाँ, वो है थोड़ा. I think I'm not very sure how much the IELTS costs because I never took it, but I think the OET costs around $490 per exam. $490 to $500. I think that's how much it costs.
हाँ, मतलब ये गया लगभग 40,000 के आसपास.
Definitely.
40,000.
Approximately. Yeah. But it's a one-shot exam. I mean, once you clear it, वो set है. So it's good.
और इसकी एक्सेप्टेंस काफी वाइड है ना?
हाँ, exactly. So I think now, because even if you have taken the OET and if you have not taken TOEFL, for example, I think universities are still accepting OET instead of like you don't have and TOEFL, so you don't have to pay twice. मतलब TOEFL and OET नहीं करने की जरूरत नहीं है. If you have taken OET, वो ठीक है. Like they're happy with that.
वैसे मान लो एक बंदा है जिसको जो अभी शायद यूएस यूके दोनों के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रहा है, तो फिर आईएलटीएस दिया तो सिर्फ यूके में लिमिटेड हो गया, यूएस का कुछ आइडिया नहीं कैसा क्या. ओईटी दोनों जगह एक्सेप्टेड है, तो फिर वो थोड़ा सही रहता है. और जैसे आपने बताया,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. And you can, if you want to go through the PLAB journey, as you said, OET is accepted there also. So it's like a common exam. So it's easier that way.
सही है ना. तो जैसे अगर किसी को एक बार ट्राई करना है तो अपना ओईटी एक बार दे दे, ओईटी के रिजल्ट्स आ जाए, इंटर्नशिप के बीच में जा सकता है.
But एक problem है, OET का result is only valid for 2 years. So उसके बाद तेरे को मतलब if you don't get certified in that time, like ECFMG certified, you will have to take the OET again. So वो थोड़ा problem है because like if you take the OET now and you're only applying 2-3 years from now, it might not be valid. So वो एक छोटी चीज is a problem. But definitely if you're in your internship year and you're either planning for the PLAB pathway or the USMLE pathway, definitely that time taking OET is a good option because then you only have to study for one exam.
मतलब बेसिक प्रिपरेशन क्या थी ओईटी के लिए? मतलब कुछ स्पेसिफिक इनके कंटेंट थे, मतलब रिसोर्सेज क्या थे बेसिकली पढ़ने के लिए, क्या
So for OET, matlab, on their website they have free resources to prepare. I
ओके।
think those were the most helpful for me because wo matlab essay, like it is very similar to the actual exam. So it's like they have 4 practice tests which are free on the website. So I used only that many. There are a couple of websites called I think it's called I2, and then there is one called Benchmark. They offer practice tests, but honestly, like I didn't need them, and I didn't feel like it's worth, like, because like the practice tests on the website were ठीक है, मतलब they were quite good, and they were very similar to the actual exam comparatively, retrospectively when I look back. So it was quite good. And then I think the only thing I needed to pay for preparation was benchmark letter writing. So like I said, वो writing the letters is a bit tricky. So इसके लिए I think benchmark has something, has 3 or 4 letters they correct for you and they give you a grade. So you know if you're writing it correctly. So they have something called express correction. So if you send it today, they'll grade it tomorrow. So I took that, and I think that was for $20 or $30. So that was the only like thing I paid for resources. Everything else is free on the website. So it's quite easy for you to like prepare for OET.
सही है फिर। तो बेसिक टाइमलाइन क्या थी यूएसएमएलई, जैसे यूएसएमएलई एग्जाम स्टार्ट हो तो स्टेप 1 कब दिया था आपने, सेकंड ईयर, थर्ड ईयर, फाइनल ईयर कब, या फिर?
So that's what. So normally, like people take step 1 in their third year. That is actually very ideal because your first and second year subjects are quite fresh in your mind. So it'll be easier for, because step 1 is basically foundation science. So it's more of like your pathophysiology. It's more of your microbiology, pharmacology, ये सारी चीजें होते हैं. So it is always better to take it when it's fresh in your mind rather than taking it after final year. Just you would have forgotten most of the pharmac mechanisms and वो छोटे-छोटे चीज like the biochemistry का cycles and stuff. So I didn't know if I wanted to go ahead with this pathway when I was in second or third year. So I never took the exam. I took the step 1 exam in my intern year. So that was in 2020. That's when I took the exam. And I think I got the result in October of 2020. Uske baad, I had already done 1 clerkship, so I did 2 more before I graduated. So I wanted to make sure that before I graduate, at least 3 clerkships मैंने किया है. So I did all 3 in pediatrics because पहले से I knew कि I wanted to only apply for pediatrics. I wasn't interested in like other specialties like internal medicine, neurology. मतलब I knew कि मतलब even in college, like med school में when I was working in wards, I knew कि मतलब pediatrics ही मेरे को बहुत पसंद थी as compared to like other specialties. So in that way, it was kind of cool. I knew what I wanted, which was easier for me. And so I finished my clerkships, and then that was in like Feb and March of 2021. And then I came back and I started preparing for step 2, and I graduated, and then that's when I started preparing for my step 2. As well as that time, I think COVID ka Delta wave hit. So I was also working at that time. So it was like working and studying simultaneously. But the problem, what happened was, I think my timeline got a bit disrupted because of COVID, because बहुत सारी prometric centers बंद थी because of the Delta wave. So I wasn't able to, like, even my permit came late for the ticket, the hall ticket for the step 2 exam. That came late, and like I think my OET also, by the time I could schedule it, it was already June. So it was a bit of a hurry for me, and I wasn't able to study on time because of everything that was happening. So I ended up taking my step 2 a bit late. Took it in October of 2021. So I wasn't able to apply for the previous batch because of the COVID and everything got disrupted. So I'm applying now for this match. So that was my timeline for step 2. So step 2, I think step 1 I studied for 6 months. So I studied from May to October. So around like 6 months. And for step 2 also I studied for around 6 months only, same time. So I think step 2 normally now, especially because step 1 is pass fail, I think step 2 is becoming more important. So I would honestly like recommend ki step 2 ke you should give more importance. So yeah, I studied like I think 6 months for step 2, and uske baad abhi step 3 I just finished my step 3. So uske liye I studied for a month and a half. So I took my steps. So after I finished my step 2, I took a break. I was working, and once I felt like I was ready to study for step 3, I booked the date. So I started studying in April of this year for step 3, and I took the exam in May. So May second week में मैंने exam दिया. So waiting for the result.
अरे हो जाएगा, कंटिन्यूअस एक लाइन से निकलता ही जा रहा है तो फिर क्या ही है.
So that was back my timeline. So it spanned over 2 years. So 2020, I started in 2020, and now it's 2022. So over 2 years, I completed all the exams.
सही मतलब ओईटी आपको ओईटी स्टार्ट में दिया था बाद में बीच में क्योंकि ओईटी की टाइमलाइन तो 2 ही
OET
साल
मैंने
की
बीच में दिया.
अच्छा
You know, OET मैंने बीच में दिया. So I took it in
स्टेप
June of last year.
स्टेप 1 के बाद
Uh-huh.
स्टेप 1 के
Yeah,
बाद
step one के बाद. Yeah, step one के बाद. So I took it in June of last year, 2021 पे. After I came back from Clerkships, I booked the OET date, but उसके time पे भी फिर बहुत closures थी because of step one. I mean, sorry, because of COVID. So उसके time पे the centers were not open. They kept getting cancelled. So finally, I took OET online. और Prometric center में you can take it. So एक ही center open था India पे. I had to travel and take it. But finally, I took it in June. So it was done.
सही. तो फिर रिसोर्सेज क्या थे प्रिपरेशन के जैसे मतलब स्टेप 1 जैसे बेसिकली नॉन क्लिनिकल सब्जेक्ट है तो जो बुक आती है कि यूएसएमएल स्टेप 1 की वही बेसिक था या फिर चीजें एक्स्ट्रा थी जैसे
So
बीएन
step one का basic, so step one का basic resources I would feel like mainly is UWorld and first aid. वो first aid का book आती है ना, that is
हाँ
that one
वो
main resource.
प्योर टिपिकल एनसीईआरटी टाइप
Yeah, but बहुत मस्त है वो book. Like it has everything that you need. बहुत concise है. So I genuinely I feel like there are two main resources. If you're using two main, it should be UWorld and first aid for step one. Because UWorld तो बहुत मस्त है. Like in terms of like it is very similar to the actual exam, and it's a very vast question bank with good answer explanation. सारे है. So it is a very like concise bank. And it is the gold standard. Like I have used other question banks also as practice, but I feel like UWorld too, it was the gold standard for all my preparation. So UWorld was good. First aid was good, but I did use other resources because I took my step one after, like during my internship year. So by that time, I really had to like brush up on like microbiology and pharmacology, and because I had forgotten a bit of these gram stains and all of these small biochemistry cycles and
कोई भी
ये
भूल
छोटी छोटी
जाएगा
चीज.
कोई भी
वही
भूल
तो. So
जाएगा
I was just done with my final year. So मेरे को मतलब वो biochemistry के cycles ही याद नहीं थी कि Krebs cycle का वो छोटे छोटे enzymes. So for me, it was kind of like I had to brush up on that. So I think for pathology, there's a really good resource called Pathoma. So वो बहुत
सत्तार
मस्त resource है.
सत्तार के
हाँ,
पास
सत्तार की videos वो बहुत मस्त है. I feel like that was he explains it so well, like in his videos, and he draws out the small pathologies and he explains it, and it's बहुत मस्त है. Like I watched the entire series, like even the systemic pathology, and it was very interesting also. It was a small videos, like 10-15 minute में he'll finish like an entire like topic. So that was good. दूसरी resource I used was Boards and Beyonds, and that I used for Biochem, Pharmac. उनके लिए I did all of that because that they also had like these small like small videos. So it was like I think maybe 15-20 minutes for one topic, and that was good. Like I can't watch long videos because I will lose my attention span and I will not remember what is important. So isme like they will just tell you the important things, like they will tell you how to remember them. So Boards and Beyonds was also quite good. And I think a lot of people use this resource called Sketchy. So I think like I never used because I am more of like a audiography. Like, I will listen and learn rather than like watch something and learning. So I'm not very good with visual learning, so it didn't work with me. But I think like a lot of my friends use Sketchy and they loved it because it's very easy to remember like the microbiology. हाँ, वो bacteria, gram stains, वो सारे मतलब it's in a form of a cartoon, right? So it's interesting to watch also.
इंटरेस्टिंग रहता है प्लस रिपीट करोगे तो फिर एक डायग्राम में सब कुछ आ गया.
हाँ, exactly. So if you're a visual learner, right, it's very easy because एक diagram में you will remember कि gram stain क्या था, what organism it affects, and like and what is the antibiotic. सारे एक ही you will get it in one picture. So in that way, Sketchy master. They have some. I think they have Sketchy Farm also. So pharmacologically, they're doing some similar videos. So I think that is also like a lot of people who like visual learning. They loved it. So these are like side by side. I think you can use these resources. And these resources are also quite helpful. Like I said, if you are like taking step one after a while, it is very helpful for you to like brush up on these topics. Because UWorld में मतलब they will tell you the answer, they'll give you explanation, but like वो पूरा मतलब history कहानी of that particular disease you will want to read again. So rather than like going through the normal textbooks and reading, if you see these resources and small videos, I think that is like much better and that's much faster to learn as well.
ये तो सही भी है. 17 स्लाइड शेयर पे एकदम की स्लाइड ही होती है, स्लाइड ही चल रही होती है और उस पे वो अपना एक्सप्लेनेशन चल रहा है. बीएनबी का है कि छोटे-छोटे वीडियो हैं बहुत लोग जिसे मैंने देखा बीएनबी की वीडियो, उनका फ्लैश कार्ड बनाया, अंकी में डाला, फिर वो अपना चल रहा होता है।
Exactly. So Anki is also very useful software, I feel. For step one, step two, ke liye I didn't use Anki because I feel like step two was more clinical based and that is more of like how you diagnose. But step one, I think I used Anki for biochem because biochem ka exams bahut thi hai. There were so many exams that it was very hard for me to remember them. So I just downloaded the pre-made deck. So bahut sare decks milte hain. There's
हाँ मिल
something
जाएगी
called
आराम से।
Anking. हाँ, Anking hai, and then there is something called
एक
Zanki.
हाँ जानकी जानकी से।
So these are the decks that you find online and they are pre-made. So matlab sare you just have to like download it and put it on the Anki software and they will like you can just like keep using the flashcards every day. So I think in that way Anki is also really good for like all these small recall subjects like biochem and like micro where you have to remember these particular things. Anki really helps because like if you keep doing it over a week or so, वो automatically you will remember rather than like studying it and just reading it over and over again. So it's a good
रिकॉल के लिए
software.
सही रहता है ना, आप खट खट एक बटन दाबा पूरा एक हो गया, फिर चल रहा होता, प्लस
हाँ, and
मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं चीजें अपने हिसाब से।
exactly, and it's easy, like you know, it's like you
हाँ,
know, just putting the pressing the space bar, and oh, automatically you are feeling like, acha, I'm learning something. So it's like active and passive learning at the same time. So in that way, it's quite good.
यूएसएमएल के लिए बेसिक, स्टेप वन के लिए बेसिक एक एनसीईआरटी, मतलब यूएसएमएल स्टेप वन की जो किताब आती है बेसिकली वो यू वर्ड इनफ है इतने।
Yeah,
बट हाँ
first year in New World is gold standard. बाकी ये सारे मतलब साइड में you can use whichever resources you
हाँ
want.
वो तो
ये
फिर
सारे
अलग
कितने
अलग।
हैं there? हाँ, अलग अलग है, बहुत सारे others are also there, like YouTube में there is osmosis videos, वो भी अच्छे हैं, and then there is I think osmosis का videos, and I think there is I forgot the एक और थी Pixorize I think for biochem, वो ऐसे sketchy की तरह biochem पे they have done.
बट उतना
So
सही था नहीं,
मतलब
उतना सूट
yeah,
नहीं
it
किया है।
really depends on like yeah, exactly. So I think it depends on three कौन से weak points है, like while you're studying you will realize and just get like extra resources for that. So rather than buying all of them and then overburdening yourself with so many resources, like better to start with UWorld and first aid and then you'll realize like which is my weak subject. And uske liye you get a resource. So that's a nicer way of approaching the exam.
मेरे यहाँ ओस्मोसिस की एक ट्रिक होती थी कि ओस्मोसिस वाले 7 दिन का फ्री ट्रायल देते थे, तो
हाँ
टेम्परेरी ईमेल से टेम्प ईमेल करके साइट आती
हाँ
है, वो
हाँ हाँ
टेम्परेरी ईमेल देती है, 7 दिन यूज करो फिर दूसरी बना लो। तो उनके उस टाइम
हाँ
उसमें सारे वीडियो फ्री होते थे, अगर वीडियो ही देखना है पीडीएफ ही निकाल लिए, ठीक है हो जाएगा काम। तो पर
हाँ, osmosis तो that's also very cute है ना, वो मतलब
हाँ,
कार्टून की तरह videos होते हैं.
हाँ,
So you are watching it and you feel nice, like मतलब कुछ like it's very nice visually, it's nice to watch it.
यूनिवर्सिटी एग्जाम के लिए भी काफी सही होता है, 10 मिनट के अंदर देख लिया, जाके वहां लिख सकते हो 2-4 पन्ने।
Exactly. मतलब जल्दी जल्दी you will get all the information rather than reading like 10 pages in textbook, वो एक वीडियो में मिल जाता है.
पूरा
So
कंप्लीट
osmosis भी अच्छे हैं.
कर। ऐसे
हाँ मस्त
एक था
है.
वो ऑनलाइन मेडिट करके एक था, मतलब एक बंदा है, मतलब वो बेसिकली एक चार्ट पे सब कुछ पढ़ा देता है और वो थोड़ा।
Yeah, Dustin Williams.
हाँ
वो step 2 के लिए बहुत अच्छे है. Step 1 के लिए it's not that good, but step 2
हाँ,
के लिए I think online method अच्छे.
मैंने पिछले साल मेडिसिन पढ़ी थी, कुछ टॉपिक्स उससे पढ़े थे क्योंकि मेरी छूट रही थी, मैंने कहा किताब से नहीं हो पाएगा, वहीं से देखते हैं, बट सही था, मतलब एक फ्लो चार्ट, लेकिन वो मतलब टेबल भी तभी समझ में आएगी जब लेक्चर देखे रहते, और वीडियो लेक्चर उनकी
हाँ
फ्री है।
वही. So and you can even download those notes, lecture notes if with from OME online merit, and they have a book also which you can buy. सारे lecture notes एक ही book में है. So you can just get the book and then watch the video. No, it'll be very easy. Like मतलब एक ही page में सारे information वो देते हैं. So in that way, yeah, online merit is also very cool. Step 2 के लिए it's very cool actually because
मेडिसिन
step
के
2
लिए
के लिए
तो
ज़्यादा
काफी सही
resources
है,
नहीं है.
मेडिसिन के लिए तो
हाँ
काफी सही
exactly.
है कि मैंने मेडिसिन
Clinical
भी पढ़ के
subjects के
दिया
लिए
था,
ठीक है.
और उनके
हाँ
मिल भी जाते
exactly
हैं,
exactly.
मिल भी तो जाते हैं उनके, जैसे आपका जैसे वीडियो फ्री है, वीडियो आप लॉगिन करें, वीडियो सारे ओपन फ्री है उनके, पीडीएफ आपको मिल
Yeah.
जाएंगे, पीडीएफ मिल जाएंगे, कहीं ना कहीं
Exactly.
रहते हैं,
मिल जाएंगे.
मिल जाते हैं।
Exactly. So basically, like the videos are like gold. So मतलब clinical subjects के लिए मतलब बहुत मस्त है. वो treatment algorithms में वो he puts them in a flow chart. So it's very easy to remove first line
अरे
drugs कौन सा है, second line drugs. So वो in that way it's really nice.
जो उनका इंटर्न कंटेंट है, लाइक अप्रोच टू ब्लीडिंग अप्रोच, मतलब इंटर्न कंटेंट का अलग से सेक्शन है, वो भी काफी सही रहता है कि हाँ एक आइडिया मिल जाता है कि हाँ ये चीज है तो क्या हो सकता है।
Exactly. Exactly. That's true. So for step two के लिए, right? So step two के लिए I basically used only UWorld because step two के लिए क्या है? I think it's more of like how well you know the diagnosis. So I think for that it's more of like intuitiveness rather than actually studying, because like it's like after you solve questions you will realize कि मतलब this is how you rule things out, or this is how you come to the final diagnosis. Because step two is more of like the two-step question. See, they'll give you a diagnosis, but then they will ask you कि इसकी first order of management क्या है. So मतलब उसके एक minute में you have to think of the diagnosis, and you have to think of इसकी पहले antibiotic क्या है, what test do you do first, stuff like that. So it's more of like how intuitive you are, and I really like step two. Like more than step one, I like step two as an exam because I feel like it tests your clinical knowledge, and it's something more interesting because like step one is more of like foundations and like biochemistry and microbiology and stuff. But step two is like more of like medicine that we normally see in day-to-day life. Medicine, OBGYN, pediatrics, like it has like bits and pieces of everything. So I used only UWorld. There is a first aid for step two, but I didn't use it because it's not really that helpful. Because, like I said, it's more of like actually actively solving questions rather than reading. Online Medit was a good resource for like a couple of, I think, subjects that I felt that I needed like a brush up in. Like OBGYN, there were a couple of really good videos in Online Medit which I liked. I think even psychiatry ka videos, like I watched it online, so that was also quite good. So there are a couple of subjects that I felt that I wanted to like just brush my knowledge in before I could start UWorld. So that is something that I feel that you can use Online Method as a parallel resource, but mainly UWorld and plus the NBME exams. The NBME offers like test exams, practice exams, so those are really helpful, and I think it's like $50 per exam, but it's worth spending because they have only 2 or 3 exams that are available, but they're very similar to how the actual exam is. So in that way, both like that is one more really good resource for step two, especially because, and even for step one, because it kind of gives you a score at the end. It tells you ki this is how much you might get in the actual exam. And the questions are written by the same people who write the actual exam. So NDME writers are the same people, right? The ones who will write the questions for the actual step two exam. So in that way, NBME exams are very helpful. It kind of like gave me an idea of whether I was ready to schedule the exam, whether I was ready to take the exam, what kind of difficulty level of questions I can expect. So it was good. That is another good resource for both the steps actually.
NDMA.
NBME is basically, NBME is a website. So basically it's National Board of Medical Examiners. That's the full form. So it is the same organization that conducts the USMLE exams. So uski websites where you get like forms, like these are test forms. So each test form is 4 to 5 hours long. It's like very similar to the actual exam. It is written by the same people who write the actual exam. So in that way, it is a good way of testing yourself. Like questions you will be doing in UWorld, but in UWorld you're more of like you're in that learning mode. You're like, okay, I'm learning something. But this is like a proper test. Like, you're doing it in a timed mode and it gives you a score after you finish it. So you can expect, am I ready to take the exam? Am I ready to schedule it? So it gives you a very good idea of like where you are in your preparation. So in that way, NBME exams are very good.
स्टेप 2 का ये भी तो सही रहता है, कम से कम थोड़ी डॉक्टर वाली फील आती है। 1 तो ऐसा होगा कि रट्टा मार के काम खत्म। स्टेप 2 है कि कुछ तो हो रहा है स्टेप 2 में, क्या कुछ तो चल रहा है।
Step 2 is like exactly like I said, वो step 2 is like more intuitive. Like you will feel like हाँ मैं तो actually diagnose कर रही हूँ, मतलब इतनी लंबी question, they will give you all the vitals and everything, all the lab values, and you will be reading them and you will be like highlighting कि मतलब ये abnormal है, इसके लिए मतलब I'm diagnosing this. So वो थोड़ा it's much more interesting. Even the exam, it's longer. It's like 9 hours as compared to step 1, which is 8 hours. So it is longer, but it doesn't feel that way because it's actually more interesting. Like personally, I like step 2 exam more than step 1 because I felt like it was like something that I genuinely enjoyed. Like in the exam, I was enjoying like questions as compared to step 1 में बहुत tension थी, मतलब क्या इतनी I had to like learn so many small enzymes and everything. But like step 2 was very chill.
स्टेप 2 का जैसे रिजल्ट आया, आपने दिया, रिजल्ट आया, तो उसके बाद फिर अप्लाई हुआ था या प्रोसीजर क्या था उसके बाद की कहानी?
Okay, so first step 2, like I took my step 2 late, right? So I took my step 2 I think in October end of last year. So I see, if I had to apply for last year of the residency cycle, I would have applied. I should have finished my step 2 before August. August ke end pe I should have finished it, so I would have got my result, and so that before at least the application cycle starts, which was in September end, I should have got my result and got certified and wo sari cheez. But I couldn't because of the delay because of COVID. So I took it in October. So that's why I didn't apply. So because when you are applying, you need both your step 1 and step 2 scores. Dono you need to have finished and you should have gotten your scores. If preferably you should have got ECFMG certified also. So process is that once you're done with your step 2, there is something called USMLE ka pathways, where you basically go on the ECFMG website, and then there are 5 or 6 pathways where you can decide which one is easier for you to apply for certification. Because the reason why there are these pathways is because like pehle there was something called the CS, clinical skills exam, which was cancelled because of COVID. That was a way of like completing your certification, but abhi wo nahi hai, they cancelled it because of COVID, and it's very difficult for people to travel. It was only held in 5 cities in the US, so it's very impossible now for people to get visa and travel, so wo cancel ho gaya. So isliye now OET has come up, and because of that there are 5 or 6 pathways you have to apply for to get your certification. The easiest one for Indians, like almost every Indian student applies, is the pathway 1, which is basically like if you have a license, after internship you have completed, now you'll get your license, your permanent license, right? That is the one thing, that so you need the license and the letter of good standing from the medical council. You are like a good doctor, you have nothing against you. So that every medical council will write. So you just need a letter of good standing and you need your OET report. So that once you're done with that, you have to just apply online on these ECFMG pathways and you will get certified. So that is the process to apply for certification.
तो ये ECFMG सर्टिफिकेशन की बात करें ना, मतलब जैसे स्टेप 2 दिया, उसके बाद ECFMG सर्टिफिकेशन उसके बाद होगा.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
और उसके बाद फिर अगर कहीं जगह वैकेंसी या फिर कुछ होगा तो फिर अप्लाई कर सकते हैं.
So application cycle starts every September. So it's like if you missed last September, you will apply this September. So application cycle is from September to March, like September 2022 to March 2023. So uske you cannot apply beach mein. So you have to only apply during that time. So uske time pe it's always better to get to get certified, you need a step 1, step 2, your OET, and the letter of good standing for pathway 1. So once you're done with all that, you get your certification. Then you can like easily apply. See, for applying, you don't need to be certified. वो rule नहीं है. But it's always better because it's like something that is already like it gives the programs confidence कि तेरे certification हो गया. So you don't have anything pending. Certification तो complete है. So in that way, it's always better to be certified, even though there is no rule that you can't apply without being certified. So yeah, so you have to apply every September. Every September, the application season starts. So you will start preparing for your application by July, August. So it will take like once they will release something called a residency ERAS token. So that token is released every year, June end. So once you buy the token, what you have to do is you have to get your whoever you worked with in your clerkships or your observerships, you have to speak to them, the preceptors, and ask them to upload the letters of recommendation. So that is one thing. And second thing, you have to start writing a personal statement. You have to start writing about like basically like why you want to apply for that field and why are you interested, what made you interested in medicine, your story. So that's a personal statement that you will be writing. You have to make your CV on the ERAS website. So ERAS has a template that you have to follow. So you will just input it and it makes a CV for you. So you have to do all of that. So that will take at least a month or two to finish all of the processes. If you're in the process of getting certified, it will take some time. So normally people start preparing for the application cycle in June, July, August, and by August everything is ready, so that when the application season opens, like so it will open like I think the last date for this year is September 15th or September 28th. I'm not very sure. So it is either mid or end September. So before that, you need to upload everything on the platform and like keep it ready. So the program directors can start viewing it as soon as it opens. It's always better to apply early, and applying late is actually not recommended, because once the application season has opened and they've downloaded all the applications, it's like very rare that they'll go back and check if someone has applied late. So always apply before the deadline.
जल्दी अप्लाई होंगे तो उनके लिए भी आसान रहता होगा प्रॉपर फिल्टर करने के लिए पूरा प्रोसीजर.
हाँ, exactly. And And लोग मतलब I don't think कि they will go and apply, like they will go and check who has applied after the deadline has passed, because already they will get thousands of applications. So the एक shot में तो वो लोग download कर लेते हैं. उसके बाद I don't think that they will check, go back and check कि you know has anyone applied late. So applying late is not a good idea. So deadline के पहले it's always better to apply actually 2-3 days before, because वो last minute में server crash हो जाता है. So like always apply 2-3 days before. So to make sure that no, you don't miss the deadline.
मतलब स्टेप 2 हुआ, उसके बाद ये जितने भी डॉक्यूमेंटेशन वाले काम है वो सब निपटा के फिर आप एप्लीकेशन कर सकते हैं, रेजिडेंसी के लिए अप्लाई कर सकते हैं. फिर ओवरऑल उसके बाद का प्रोसीजर यूनिवर्सिटीज बताएंगी क्या है कैसा है. तो स्टेप 3 का रोल कहाँ आता है?
So step 3, like I said, is optional. वो मतलब step 3 is basically something that you take during your, like you're supposed to take during your intern year, as in your first year of residency. उसके time पे that is when people normally take it. The reason why us IMGs take it early is, one is if you have time. Like so for me, I couldn't apply last year because of the COVID. So my application got delayed. So मेरे पास time थी. Like I had time to take my step 3. So I took it up because I wanted to finish it. Second thing is, if you needed, and it obviously adds to your CV, like you finished your step 3. It's a good thing. Like you don't have any exams pending. And so you have to start your residency and then you have to clear step 3. And residency is like, you know, it's quite hectic, right? So like for you to find time to study in between that and clear a 2-day exam, it is going to be quite hectic. So it's always better to, like, if possible, to do it earlier. Second thing is, if you need a visa, right? If you clear step 3, you are eligible for H1B visa. So some hospitals and universities offer the H1B visa. So the pros of that visa as opposed to J1, which normally a lot of people get the J1 visa, right? So that is the visa that most people go on for the residency, is that J1 has something called a waiver. So after you complete your residency, you have to either do 2 or 3 years of a waiver job in the US. So either you do that or you come back to India for 2-3 years and then go back. So there is that rule. So to do a waiver, you need to work in an underserved area of the US for 3 years before you can, and that is like compulsory, because beyond that, like until you finish that, you cannot apply for green card or any other visa. So you need to complete the requirement of that visa. So in that way, that is one small problem with the J1, that you know you will have that 3-year requirement that you need to do. Either that or you come back to your home country and then go back. So it's like that. So in that way, H1B doesn't have that. Like H1B, it doesn't have any rules or anything of that sort. So you can definitely, if you finish your step 3, it is a good idea. And some hospitals do definitely offer H1B. It's on the discretion of the hospital. So you can definitely, it's a good idea that if you finish your step 3, you have a better option of applying for the H1B visa.
एक उनको भी तो एश्योरेंस रहते हैं कि हाँ इसके सारी चीजें लगभग क्लियर हैं तो ठीक ही है. सीवी में एक अलग से सिस्टम ऐड हो जा रहा होता है हर चीज. तो मतलब ये बेसिक प्रोसीजर हो गया आपका स्टेप 1 से 3 तक का पूरा. मतलब ये मेडिकल वाला प्योर कोर मेडिकल है. इसके पहले हम एक लैंग्वेज वाला देख चुके हैं. तो और फिर इसके बाद जैसे काफी ये होता है यूएसएमएलई वाले चक्कर में कि आपको रिसर्च पेपर पब्लिश कराने होते हैं. स्पेशली फिर वो कहेंगे नहीं पबमेड के ही होने चाहिए और के नहीं चलेंगे. मतलब फेलोशिप में ये काफी होता है कि हाँ हमें पबमेड का ही चाहिए होता है. उसका क्या सीन है और मतलब कैसे क्या है? क्योंकि जैसे इंडिया हमारा जो सिस्टम है इसमें सिर्फ पढ़ाई कर रहे होते हैं, रिसर्च पेपर वगैरह तो वैसे ही चल रहा होता है, भगवान भरोसे ही है. तो फिर क्या सीन है उसका, रिसर्च पेपर और उसका?
So research paper, basically doing research is like वो compulsion नहीं है. See, like it's not that मतलब research नहीं है तो you will not get into residency at all. वो like that is one thing that people are kind of having that misconception, because like I personally have seen people जिसके scores बहुत अच्छे हैं and they have barely like 1 or 2 papers and they got good residency position. So it's not compulsory, but वो क्या होता है कि in your CV, right, in the ERAS CV, there is a section for research. So जिसमें you have to write about places where you have presented, the like papers you published, papers that you're in the process of publishing. So it will not look nice if you leave it blank. And definitely I understand that in India it is very hard, because हमारे medical schools पे, especially like in like most of our med schools, like there might be some exceptions, but I feel like in most med schools they don't teach us, like research is not part of the curriculum. right? It's not something that is focused upon. So unfortunately, as compared to like other maybe other countries, like they will teach, like they have like classes on based on biostats research, but we don't. Like we only do like one project. I think community medicine third year pe we
बस
do like
वही है थोड़ा.
one
हाँ.
why here. So that is like our only experience with research as such. So in that way, I feel ki, like actually getting into the field of research is good because you will need it during your residency as well. So if you have a basic knowledge of how research works and how you publish, that is very good because during residency you will definitely need to start publishing papers if you want to apply for fellowship, right? So in that way, it's always good to have a head start. And definitely it amps up your CV. So it's like you have, even if you have good scores, if you have a lot of like papers published in good journals, and you have done like specialty specific research, like for example, I want to apply to pediatrics, so I've done like a couple of papers in pediatrics I've published. So it also shows your interest in that field. I am interested in actually learning about the upcoming science and the upcoming treatment protocols in that particular field. So it's a good way of showing programs that this is what I'm interested in, as well as it definitely adds a lot of value to a CV. So that in that side, research is never compulsory. It's not something that you have to do, but it is something that will definitely benefit you if you do it. So in that way.
मतलब वही रहता है कि हाँ एक कॉलम वैसे भी छोटा रहेगा तो सही नहीं लगेगा, बिल्कुल ही नहीं लगेगा, तो होता है
Exactly. वो मतलब बीच में इट विल नॉट लुक नाइस ना कि उस कॉलम में कुछ नहीं है, बिकॉज बाकी सारे इवन इफ यू हैव रियली गुड स्कोर्स, वो बीच में बहुत ऑड लगता है इफ यू डोंट हैव नथिंग इन दैट फील्ड.
और प्लस एक तो सीन ये भी होता है ना कि जैसे आप रिसर्च पेपर लिखना स्टार्ट, तो आप डायरेक्ट तो लिख नहीं सकते, फिर होगा कि हाँ कोई एक ऊपर बंदा होगा उसी के साथ मिलके लिख रहे होंगे, स्टार्टिंग पेपर तो वैसे ही होंगे, फिर वो मैंडली ऐप आता है ना उसका एक जो चेक करने के लिए कि कहीं से कुछ सेम तो नहीं है, और सबसे बुरी बात लगती है रिसर्च की, हर एक लाइन लिखने के बाद उसका सोर्स जाके लिखो, जो उसका लिंक करना
एग्जैक्टली.
होता है. एक लाइन
इसका
उठाया,
साइट करना था.
हाँ साइटिंग में उठा के फिर एक लाइन लिखी, फिर वो ऊपर 1 2 3 करके फिर वो जाके सोर्स लिखा. उनका यार लिखने में हालत खराब हो जाए इंसान की, और आइडिया होता
हाँ
नहीं
वो
है,
है.
आइडिया में होता
आई
नहीं
गेट यू.
कि
इट्स
क्या है
वेरी
कैसे.
it's very like methodical, मतलब लिखने
हम्म.
का मतलब even if you want to write, मतलब you have to cite correctly, you have to make sure कि कुछ plagiarism ना होगी दूसरी पेपर पे, बस ऐसे you can't उठा के you can't put it ना, you have to like rewrite things and like give them like paraphrase them, make sure that you are writing your original ideas. Like वो बहुत methodical होता है research writing as compared to like normal, like बस ऐसे like just
मैंने
writing an essay on a topic. Compared to that, research is like मतलब वो as you said, मतलब every sentence के बाद citations. So yeah, it is quite methodical. It will take some time also.
मैंने एक लिखा था, मतलब एक क्या था कि
Mm-hmm.
एक थे वो अपना लिख रहे थे, तो उनमें एक सेक्शन मुझे दिया गया था, इम्पैक्ट ऑफ कोविड ऑन रूमेटिक आर्थराइटिस. मैं
Uh-huh.
लगभग मुझे लिखना था 2 या 3 पैरा, उसमें मेरी हालत खराब हो गई, हो गया अंत में जो मेंडली ऐप करके था वहां से फिर हुआ कि हाँ भाई कहीं प्लेजरिज्म वगैरह सब चेक करना होता था, तो लिख तो गया, फिर हुआ कि अब इसके बाद नहीं लिखना, ये अपने बस का काम नहीं है, उठा लिया तो खत्म हो गया, अब नहीं हो पाएगा ये.
Definitely. I know, I get it. Like research writing, so matlab, it will take a lot of time and a lot of effort also because matlab, each slide you have to cross check and plagiarism check के कितने errors होते हैं, you have to always rectify it. So
एरर्स चेक करने
definitely it's
हैं,
quite.
प्लेजरिज्म चेक करना है, प्लस आपको 10 किताबें खोलनी पड़ेगी, कहाँ से क्या लिंक उठा रहे हो, अपने मन से आप कुछ लिख नहीं सकते, ये
Exactly.
यूनिवर्सिटी की आंसर शीट नहीं है कि आप भर दो. तो
Exactly. Sorry, every paragraph you need to cite like at least 5 to 6 references. So for that you have to read 5 to 6 papers on that
हाँ.
topic, and so it is quite methodical. But it's a good. I feel like it's a good skill to develop, and definitely like it will help. It will like while you're being a resident, you already have previous experience with writing research papers. It will definitely help you while being a resident, because you will then anyway have to do it during residency. So if you know, it's always better than learning from scratch. So in that way, and if you have like some time, always better to learn while you're in either in med school or after med school.
फायदा तो होगा ही, ऑब्वियस सी बात है, एटलीस्ट उस सेक्शन में आप इतने सारे आर्टिकल पढ़ लोगे तो ऑब्वियसली एक आइडिया तो रहेगा ही, कुछ ना कुछ तो रहेगा ही फायदा. तो फिर
Exactly.
ये आपके रिसर्च पेपर हो गए. फिर अच्छा ये एक बहुत ही कॉमन चीज चलती है, लेटर ऑफ रिकमेंडेशन. तो उसका कोई इम्पैक्ट है या क्या है बेसिक? बिकॉज एक हाइप है कि हाँ लेटर ऑफ रिकमेंडेशन कुछ तो चाहिए होता है, कुछ ऐसा चीज है, कुछ बहुत अजीब सा, बट नहीं पता कि वो क्या है, कैसे मिलता है, क्या सीन है उसका ओवरऑल। जैसे एक बंदा है, जैसे एक तो ये होता था कि अगर आपका कोई जानने वाला है यूएस में तो उसके थ्रू हो गया तो अलग बात है, लेकिन नहीं है। जैसे मान लीजिए एक बंदा गया, एक किसी गांव से निकल के गया, पूरा सब कुछ एग्जाम दिए, तो उसके लिए लेटर ऑफ रिकमेंडेशन का क्या सीन है?
Okay, so letter of recommendations are very important because NRMP, the National Resident Matching Program, did a survey of program directors in which they asked ki, what are the first 4-5 things, top 4-5 things you see while choosing a candidate for an interview. In that, the topmost was always letter of recommendation apart from scores. So scores apart from scores and personal statement, this is like the next thing that they see. So this is very important. And coming to the fact of how you get a letter of recommendation, उसके लिए it is basically through clerkships, like through clerkship, observership, the US clinical experience that you do. Once you are done with 1 month, you can request your preceptor to write a letter of recommendation for you, and they will usually write it based on how good you were in that clerkship. So and you will always want your letters of recommendation to be in the field where you are applying. So for example, I am applying to pediatrics. So I will get my letters of recommendations from pediatric professors where I have worked with them in the US, right? So compared to, I will not do an internal medicine rotation and upload an internal medicine letter of recommendation because I'm not applying to that field. So one thing about LOS is they have to be specialty specific. And definitely if the preceptor knows you worked well with them for like 1 or 2 months, they will be able to write a good letter. Matlab, they will have that confidence ki this is a good person, this is a good candidate for residency. So that bond you need to develop while working with them. So you basically get this LORs through clerkships. So clerkships, you will get the opportunity to get letters of recommendation. So I think if you ek mahine ke liye you can request, like after you've done 1 month of rotation, you can request the preceptors. And yes, mein kya hai ki you need to apply, you need to upload 3 to 4, minimum 3 and maximum 4 per program. So if you have like 3 to 4 like letters of recommendation, overall it's quite good, and they prefer US written letters of recommendation as compared to like anywhere else, because the thing is they can definitely, like, it's easier for them because it's written by someone in their own country, and they will give an idea. So okay, you actually worked in the healthcare system here, so you fit in well, you went through all the process and everything. So in that way it was quite it's always quite better to get the US letters of recommendation compared to home country letters, because some people also apply through letters you've done here in India, like through your HOD letters and stuff. But I don't think, as far as what I have heard, I don't think that carries as much value as you have worked in the US, like doing a clerkship or an observership and uski letter of recommendation. I think that is very important, and it is one of the most important things of your application, like no doubt.
तो वही है कि आप क्लर्कशिप करिए या फिर जो भी वहां पे है उसके थ्रू ही होगा। आपका कैसे हुआ था?
Basically through clerkships only. So basically whoever I rotated with preceptors, uske through I requested them to write a letter of recommendation for me, so they agree. See, normally they agree unless you were a very bad student and like you didn't do anything. Normally they agree because like you would have come all the way there and you're working in a different healthcare system altogether, and that means you're actually interested, right? Interest because of that only you've gone all the way there, paying so much of money, flights, staying in a new city and everything. So you do that, all of that out of interest for that particular field. So they will never say no. It's not like they'll say, oh, I won't write, but like unless you're a bad student. So apart from that, it's like clerkship through, it's quite, that's how you get your LOs.
मतलब वही हाल है, जैसे आप यूनिवर्सिटी में है वैसे रहेंगे तो फिर मिल जाएगा आसानी से।
हाँ, मतलब letters of recommendation, but एक problem है कि like you have to make sure that you do a good job, because the more personalized the letter of recommendation, it is better for your application. Because if they don't know you and they will write, but it will be a very generic, like मतलब this person did so and so. But if they actually know you and you did a great job in a clerkship, they will write something nice about you, like something unique, and that is something that they will appreciate while they see your application, like program day, because they're so used to seeing thousands of applications. So kuch alag sa LOR hai, something is different about it, something is unique about it. That is going to catch the eye of the program director who is going to see your application. So it's always recommended to have personalized letters of recommendation from the preceptors you work with, definitely.
तो तुम्हें जरा सबसे ज्यादा मायने रख रहा होगा कि किसका लेटर रिकमेंडेशन जा रहा है। मतलब अगर किसी बहुत ही ऊपर वाले बंदे का लेटर रिकमेंडेशन जा रहा होता है तो फिर आप स्कोर अच्छे हैं, लेटर रिकमेंडेशन अच्छा है, ठीक है। मतलब इस पे भी चीजें चल रही होंगी। और मोस्टली वहाँ वाले जो वहाँ के हैं कर रहे हैं उन्हीं के थ्रू, मतलब यूएस में ही जो कर रहे हैं अपनी प्रैक्टिस, या जो यूएस के स्पेशली सिटीजन है, अगर उनके हॉस्पिटल के थ्रू मिल रहा है तो फिर बेहतर।
Yeah, but एक problem है कि it's always not recommended to have someone you know, right? Like as in someone your relative or someone, right? Because it is kind of looked down upon. So if I have like some relatives here who are doctors, and it's very evident that they are my relatives, right? I don't want to take a letter of recommendation from them because वो बहुत obvious है कि मतलब favorable का letter ही वो देने वाले हैं, right? As compared to someone I don't know and I worked with them and they've given me a good letter of recommendation
नहीं
because
तो
that is genuine.
उनके लिए भी होता है ना कि हाँ वो उनसे कह दो कि हम किसी और के थ्रू दिला दें, सिंपल यही होता है ना, इंडिया में तो यही होता है।
हाँ, इंडिया में ऐसे होता है, बट वो मतलब वो बहुत दिखता है, लाइक समटाइम्स इफ दे फील द लेटर इज नॉट जेन्युइन दे कॉल द LOR receptor and they find out. So like I said, LOR ना बहुत important होते हैं like for the USMLE journey. So like there have been instances where they found the letter was not good, and like if they found the letter was not genuine, they call the person who wrote it to confirm कि मतलब आप like उसके आपके साथ वो उन्होंने काम किया सारे. So it is like always better to be genuine about, because that is something that they will read. Like they will definitely read your letter. So it's always better to do it through Clerkships and get it, because that is something that you would never want to take a risk on.
तो ओवरऑल मतलब ये प्रोसीजर है 2 से 3 साल का, यूएसएमएलए अगर आप स्टेप 1 से लेके चलिए कांस्टेंट देते चले जा रहे हैं, 2 से 3 साल का प्रोसीजर है। बीच में कहीं ओईटी आप दे दो स्टेप 1 के बाद कि हाँ भाई 2 साल इसकी वैलिडिटी है, एटलीस्ट ये खत्म होने तक हो जाए पूरा सेटल हुआ मामला। तो ओवरऑल अप्रोक्सीमेट कोई आइडिया होगा कितना कॉस्ट का क्या सीन है 2-3 साल के अंदर, एक रफली कॉस्ट?
So cost wise, exam का cost ही अलग होता है. So I think each exam is like $950. So step 1 $950 होता है, step 2 $950, $2,000
मतलब
उसके
कभी
बीच
कभी
में
ऐसे
से.
कैलकुलेट नहीं मारा होगा आपने?
No, but like I said, so overall cost मेरे को नहीं पता, because अभी मैंने application का भी cost होता है ना, like while you're applying to programs, each program का application fee $30-40 होता है. So that adds on to your residency. So I am not like, I think the total cost you will only be able to calculate once you finish the journey and you get matched. Then you will be like, मतलब इतनी cost हुई थी. But like see, till now I'll tell you, like step 1, step 2 का it was around $950 per exam. काफी. उसके बाद I think like what else, like I think clinical clerkships के लिए. So I think उसके लिए you will have to also again like pay, because like each clerkship, some are free, some you have to pay. So some, like for example Cleveland clinical clerkship है, so that is around $400 per application. But some universities like FIU, Florida International University, उसका I think $2,500 to $3,000 होता है. So बहुत बड़ी range है. It's like it depends on the university that you apply to and if they accept it. So it goes from 0 to 500 to 3,000 and odd. So उसके लिए it's a varied cost. So it depends on you, like it depends on where you get it. And I think what else would you, and definitely the travel and the stay here, because unless you have relatives in every city, it is impossible for you to stay right, like with someone like you don't know. So you will have to like book an Airbnb or like an apartment while you're staying here, and you will have to get your own groceries, cook your own food. So uska bhi cost add up hota hai, definitely, apart from the flight tickets and everything. So definitely I think that is another added cost for the journey. And yeah, so it's basically your exams, your resources. I think UWorld is the one thing everyone pays for. So uske liye I think it's like $350 per 6 months or something. So one subscription is enough. Like I don't think like more than that you will need. So around $350 is what like you'll pay for that. So overall, like these are the chotu costs that totally add up. But again, like while applying, you will still have to pay per program while you apply. So if I'm applying to 100 programs, I will have to pay like $30 or $40 for application per program. So uske liye bhi cost add up hota hai. So it keeps on going on until you match.
काफी
So
कंज्यूमिंग है। अच्छा हाँ,
काफी
एक
कंज्यूमिंग है.
एक चीज ये रह गई थी लेटर ऑफ रिकमेंडेशन में, जैसे आपने कहा 3 या 4 लेटर ऑफ रिकमेंडेशन, बट आप जब क्लर्कशिप एक जगह करो तो एक जगह से एक ही इशू होता है या 2-3 इशू हो सकते हैं वहां से?
So it depends on like how many months you do. एक month you normally like normal standard है कि if you work for 4 weeks you get one letter of recommendation from the prison, because in that 4 weeks they have known you well enough to write. So if you work for example 2-3 months in the same place, उसके टाइम पे you will be with different doctors in the same hospital, so you can get 2 or 3 letters of recommendation in that rotation. So even if you don't want to go to different rotations और एक ही जगह पे तेरे को 3 rotation करना है, so that is still perfect, because you will do it with different preceptors and you will get 2-3 letters of recommendation from the same place. But normally what they say is like you have to work at least a minimum of 4 weeks with the same preceptor so that they will be able to write a letter. So it's based on the time frame.
ओके, मतलब वही है कि अगर एक जगह 1 मंथ काम करो तो वहां से 1 लेटर ऑफ रिकमेंडेशन इशू हो सकता है,
इशू हो सकता है।
हाँ, मतलब ओवरऑल ये है, उसके हिसाब से आप अपना देख सकते हो। 3-4 चाहिए, ठीक है, 3-4 जगह कर लो, या फिर एक ही जगह 3-4 महीने कर लो, 3-4 डॉक्टर्स के थ्रू इशू करा लो।
वो मतलब कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव भी हो जाता है
हाँ,
sometimes, you know, if
कॉस्ट
you're working
इफेक्टिव
in the
होता
same
है।
place.
प्लस जब वहाँ लेटर ऑफ रिकमेंडेशन बनेगा तो अच्छा भी बनेगा, बिकॉज उनके साथ ट्रस्ट फैक्टर आ जाता है। जब 3-4 महीने कहीं रह जाओ तो थोड़ा रहता है कि हाँ चलो ठीक है,
And you will meet all the residents in that hospital, so वो थोड़ा contact पे establish होता है, so it'll be very good while you're applying, because you know they know कि मतलब this person was there for 3-4 months, इतने अच्छे काम किया ऐसे।
बेस्ट ऑप्शन यही होता है कि एक ही जगह पकड़ो जहाँ थोड़े डॉक्टर्स के अमाउंट हो, 3-4-5-6 जो भी रहते हो, फिर वहां पे 3-4 महीने जॉब करके सारे 3-4 लेटर ऑफ रिकमेंडेशन उठा लो।
Definitely.
अच्छा, हाँ, आपका कुछ फाउंडेशन था, ये सेफ हाउस के सेफ स्पेस क्या था?
So Safe Space is a foundation that I recently founded. It's like 6 months ago. So it's basically like a free 24/7 helpline for adolescents. For like, see, the reason I founded it is basically because I feel that in India and in most places across the world, mental health is something that is quite stigmatized and it is not focused upon, especially for children and teenagers, because they are not aware कि मतलब क्या हो रहा है and why are they feeling depressed or why are they feeling anxious. So sometimes I feel like it's always better to have someone anonymous or someone to talk to, right? Somewhere safe. So it is basically founded like by me, and then like we have a bunch of doctors who are volunteering with us. So every single person is an MBBS graduate or an MBBS student. So we joins in like whoever teenager or talk to someone, right? Just talk and like let it out and have a space to express their feelings, because they'll have so many, especially because of COVID, you know, everyone's been having school from home and it's so difficult because they haven't been able to meet their friends. They haven't been able to go out and play and get their, you know, play sports. Kuch nahi, they've just been stuck at home. So I definitely know that it takes a toll on your mental health. So if you need like a space to talk about, like, you know, if you're getting bullied online, or if you're having a problem with, like, you know, a relationship, for example, or if you're having a problem with like coming out as like bisexual or anything like gender. So it really depends on like what, you know, it could be about anything, like so that's like the whole point of safe space. Like it really doesn't depend on what problem you have. It depends on whether you want to like talk to us. So if you want to talk, we always have our lines open, so anyone can talk to us at any time, and it's completely anonymous on both sides because it's on a Discord server. So the child will also be anonymous, like we won't know where they're from, or like unless they choose to reveal it, and we wouldn't ask anyone to reveal their personal details. We wouldn't know where they're from and they wouldn't know who they're talking to. So in that way the anonymity is maintained, which gives them like a space to express their feelings. So in that way, that's something that I felt that was needed for children and for adolescents, especially now in this era where everything is online. It's very easy to be like, you know, to get into like traps online, to get bullied online. It's happening so much, and they don't know ki matlab, to whom they can approach and whom they can talk, right? Sometimes you just don't want to talk to your parents about it, or you don't feel safe talking to someone, you know, because you feel like you will get judged, or you feel like, you know, you don't feel like talking to someone like who knows you, because you feel like, nahin, I would rather talk to someone, you know, I don't know, because it's more comfortable that way. So yeah, that is a gap that we're trying to bridge, and that is why we founded that helpline.
तो फिर उसकी कोई ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट है या क्या है? द ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट है द सेफ स्पेस?
Yeah, so we do have a website which will be up, I think, by this month end. But we have a Discord server, so that is how like everyone that is how we operate. So the volunteers, all our volunteers are trained by licensed therapists and child psychiatrists. So every volunteer went through 3 rounds of training so that they know, because again, you are dealing with mental health and it's quite a sensitive issue. So we don't want our volunteers to give out wrong advice. So every single person who volunteered with us, they went through 3 rounds of training with licensed child psychiatrists and the therapists. And हमारे board में we also have child psychiatrists and therapists with us. So in case we do have we are confused, or if we don't know what to do in that situation, we always know, like, we can refer them or get someone on board who is licensed to take care of something if it's a bigger problem, right? If it's not just someone who wants to talk, and if they're actually having a bigger problem than that, an emergency problem, we do have like licensed therapists and psychiatrists with us. So that's like pretty much so. And it works on Discord. So it's like Discord is it's easier to be anonymous on Discord. And most teenagers nowadays are using Discord.
हर कोई यूज कर रहा है.
So it's like a good platform, and it's something that everyone knows how to use. So that's why we chose to use that.
खासकर ये जब से ये ऑडियो वाले गेम्स आने चालू हुए जिसमें आप बात कर रहे होते, तब से ज्यादा एक्टिव हो गया डिस्कॉर्ड वाला सर्वर. डिस्कॉर्ड के
Exactly. I think Among Us के start पे सारे लोग Discord यूज कर रहे थे.
या फिर उसके पहले वो था, क्या था एक जिसमें लड़ाई लड़ रहे थे, जो बैन हुआ था, पबजी में भी डिस्कॉर्ड यूज कर रहे थे. मतलब ये भी जो ऐसे बात करने वाले हैं उन सब में वही यूज होता है, क्योंकि वो ऑडियो अच्छा है, उनका ऑडियो सही रहता है.
एग्जैक्टली, ऑडियो सही होते हैं, एंड प्लस मतलब anonymity होते हैं ना, but like that's a good thing. So that's why I think like that was a good platform. Plus बहुत सारे teachers को they know how to use. So मतलब we didn't want to build a platform जिसको they don't know and then we have to teach them. It's easier because you're very familiar with the platform. And plus our
उसके फंक्शन भी तो काफी सही है. मतलब मॉडरेट, हर एक चीज आप मॉडरेट कर सकते हैं उसमें. ऐसा नहीं है कि हाँ चीजें आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल हो जाएं.
Yeah, so we have a bot. So our tech team has developed a bot, so which is basically like a virtual OPD. So it's like someone comes in and we ask them, like the bot figures out what ki uski problem kya hote hai. If they're feeling like anxious, or if they're feeling depressed, or if they just want to talk, then the bot assigns them to a volunteer, and then the volunteer talks to them, and like and plus we have volunteers from all time zones. So it's like at any time someone or the other will be available, because there are people from the US, there are people from India, there are people from the Middle East. So we have volunteers from everywhere. So in that way, it's not like even if they reach out in the middle of the night in India, it'll be morning somewhere else, someone else will be online. So the bot assigns the volunteer, and if there is any, like for example, hate crime or hate speech on the thing, the bot bans the person who's doing it. So we make sure that there is no bullying on the platform, and it's automatically banned and moderated. So in that way, it was like, we are building it in such a way that there is no like negative impact on like the child.
आप बता रहे थे कि उस डिस्कॉर्ड सर्वर पे कुछ बॉट्स हैं, तो उनका काम क्या था?
Yeah, so basically like that's how we programmed the server to be. So it's very safe, because again, we're dealing with children and we're dealing with adolescents. So we wouldn't want anything negative happening, right? So that's why we have bots who are automatic moderators. So they don't have to wait for like someone human to like come in and moderate. And like if you want to like if something like which is not needed is happening, if someone's bullying someone on the Discord server, or if something like that is happening, we have bots to automatically make sure that the person is like taken out of the server. And bots also assign like children or adolescents to the volunteers, so it's like very systematically done in that way. There's even a call function in Discord, right? So we can even have a call with the volunteers, with the child or the adolescent who seeks help, in case like they want to, or else if they don't prefer that and they just want to just chat, that is there as well. So it really depends on the comfort level of who's seeking out help. So that's basically the thing. Like we just want to bridge the gap between children and adolescents and actual psychiatrists and therapists, because not everyone has access to psychiatrists and therapists, or not everyone is willing to take out the time to go there, because they don't think that the problems are big enough to actually seek help. But they would always benefit from someone hearing them out and talking it out, because sometimes that's something that's all you need, right? Sometimes with a small problem or if it's just a minor inconvenience that you have, and you would just want to rant it out or talk to someone rather than actually make an appointment with a therapist and go there. So we just want to bridge the gap between the two, and that was kind of the foundation of actually making and this helpline happen.
इट्स लाइक एनजीओ, एक एनजीओ है जो कि एक मेंटल हेल्थ से रिलेटेड बच्चों के लिए, अभी कोई भी बंदा हो, बच्चों की क्या, एक पूरा स्पेक्ट्रम है, कोई भी हो वहां पर उसकी एक प्रॉपर थेरेपी या एक हेल्प हो सकती है। इन द केस अगर परेशान है एनोनिमस लोगों से, मतलब ये होता है कि आसपास में मदद मांगे तो फिर होगा कि एक जन के पास बात गई, फिर वहां से फैलने लगी, उनसे किसी और तक पहुंची, किसी और तक पहुंची, फिर वो थोड़ा माहौल अजीब सा हो जाता है आसपास का, तो रहता है कि हाँ।
एग्जैक्टली एंड कोई स्टिग्मा है ना, मतलब मेंटल हेल्थ के लिए, मतलब लॉट ऑफ पीपल डोंट लाइक टॉकिंग टू समवन दे नो बिकॉज ऑफ द स्टिग्मा, दे लाइक बहुत, दे फील जज्ड, बट ये ऑनलाइन anonymous है, so they don't feel judged, you don't have that pressure कि मतलब what if there is someone I know, because सारे anonymous है, you won't know उसकी name, you'll not know the name of who you're talking to, I won't know the name of someone I am guiding or helping, so in that way it gives that freedom to express कि even
हाँ,
there's the slightest of problem, or even if there is some embarrassing thing that you would want to talk about, it's always easier if it is someone like it is done through anonymity. So in that way, that is the gap we are trying to bridge, especially like in places where the mental health is still like a stigmatized topic.
अभी भी है, खासकर रूरल सेक्टर में तो बहुत ज्यादा। मैं
Exactly.
हम
So
अब सोचे सबसे कम चलने वाली ओपीडी में हम लोग क्या है, साइकाइट्री है, बट पेशेंट यहाँ बहुत है, बट नहीं आते लोग दिखाने, क्योंकि उनका होता है कि
exactly,
यार।
because लोगों का, exactly right, because they don't feel like they have some problems they need to go, and it's just stigma, like they feel कि मतलब psychiatry, if you're going to a psychiatrist then that means कि someone will know and then you will get judged, and वो ऐसे मतलब it will just like the word will spread, so you wouldn't want that, right? Like and that, it's sad but it's true, but that's the reason why people are not seeking mental health openly, and that is why we want to bridge the gap. See, that is where we, and I feel like if, because all of us are doctors or like medical professionals on the Discord server, there is one level of comfort also, because you know you're talking to someone who has some experience in this field,
इनफ
right? And you're
क्वालिफाइड।
like, and yeah, exactly, qualified enough to at least deal with the problem in a small scale, if not like a major like scale. Like obviously we cannot prescribe meds, or obviously we cannot give them any like advice a psychiatrist will give, because we're not licensed to do that, but at least at a small scale level, if someone's having a panic attack, we know how to calm them down, we know how to address those small issues, like to make sure that they're feeling safe and calm and things like that. So in that way I think we're trying to bridge the gap there. Exactly, and it's always interconnected. Like you have a chronic issue, like you have a chronic pain condition. It's usually intertwined with some form of either a depression or either just having low mood, if not depression, just dysthymia. So there's always an interconnection of these symptoms with medicine. So it's always important, like for people to realize that mental health needs as much importance as your physical health, and for that, like it's there, but it's still taking time. People are still learning it's normal for you to go to a psychiatrist, it's normal for you to go to a therapist, it's normal for you to talk about these things, but like it's going to take more time for it to like become more relatable and become more open, especially in India. So I really hope that it happens soon, but it's good that
टाइम
it's still
लेगा।
it's still in the process. Exactly. So time lega, but ho raha hai. I see the change happening, less compared to like maybe 10-15 years ago, which is a
स्पेशली
good thing.
अर्बन सेक्टर में तो काफी हद तक चीजें सुधर चुकी है, अभी रूरल में बची है, बट अर्बन में तो काफी चीजें सही है, धीरे धीरे
Yeah,
सुधर।
it's catching up. Exactly. And I feel like abhi TV shows mein bahut they're showing ki matlab
हाँ,
TV shows, or they're showing ki what is the importance of mental health. And when you see that, people realize it's okay. Matlab it's normal to feel depressed. It's normal to feel anxious. And if it is hampering with your everyday life, you should definitely go and seek help and talk to someone. You shouldn't just keep it in within. So people are realizing the importance of it slowly, and it's a good thing.
जैसे एक मूवी भी आई थी डियर जिंदगी करके, शाहरुख खान,
हाँ,
आलिया भट्ट,
Alia
मेंटल
Bhatt.
हेल्थ पे 2016 के आसपास शायद आई थी, बट सही थी, मतलब अच्छी मूवी थी कि हाँ एक मेंटल हेल्थ पे, क्योंकि सब होता है जब बड़े स्टार कास्ट बनाते हैं तो लोग थोड़ा एक बार देखते ही हैं।
एग्जैक्टली, एंड वो देखते हैं, दे रियलाइज कि ये नॉर्मल है, मतलब दे रिलेट, दे लाइक हाँ, मतलब इफ आलिया भट्ट कैन गो एंड सीक हेल्प फ्रॉम अ थेरेपिस्ट, देन इट इज, दे रियलाइज कि मतलब वी कैन आल्सो डू दैट,
हाँ,
वो
फिर
आइडिया आ
जैसे
जाता है कि
कोविड
इट्स
में जैसे
नॉर्मल.
सुशांत सिंह राजपूत वाला केस हुआ, फिर उसके बाद चीजें तो अब धीरे धीरे चीजें लाइट में आ रही हैं, बट वो ये टाइम लेगी, अचानक से तो नहीं हो जाएगा ना। अच्छा हाँ, आपकी एक और
अचानक से
फाउंडेशन
नहीं
है,
होगा.
ऑटो
हाँ
रिसर्च
हाँ.
इनिशिएटिव। ऑटो रिसर्च इनिशिएटिव का क्या सीन है, रिसर्च पेपर लिखाते हैं? क्या है सीन?
So
मुझे कोई
yes,
आइडिया
so
नहीं।
basically, no, so it is funded by me and my friend. So what we do is basically like we teach international medical graduates and students for free on basic research methodology, because we are also not like top notch researchers, but we have written a lot of papers and we have got published, so we know, and we have taken courses in basic research methodology, so we know the basics. So the reason why we started Otto is, again, like I told you, like in medical like colleges in India, and I feel like in most of the countries in Asia, this is what I'm seeing as a trend. Okay, they don't teach research as a particular subject, and we don't have access to like learning how to write a scientific paper. We don't have access to like learning how to publish. We don't have those skills, right? We don't learn those actively. So usually we learn through it through like some seniors or like through someone we know. Through that we learn, but it's always hearsay, and it's very hard if you're in a medical school where like no one is writing USMLE. Then uske time pe, like, it's hard, like you don't know where to start. So we just want to help in that way, like we want to bridge the gap again there between people like who are completely newcomers to research, and then like and give them a chance to start writing scientific papers. And trust me, it's not that hard. Like once you get the hang of it, you will learn. But like to actually start learning and to make it simplified enough that anyone can understand it and actually start writing it and make it like an easier way rather than the complicated ways that you see online, because there are so many courses and then they have so much information that you don't understand. You're like, "Matlab, kitne sare hai? How do I know when to start writing? How do I know when to like how to cite, what to cite?" So we simplify that for them, and we always wanted to do this for free, because I have seen that matlab aajkal, because research is becoming more popular with USM, kitni sari companies hai, they charge money, they charge $700-800
अच्छा
for
खासा
just
चार्ज है।
teaching research.
हाँ,
Yeah, for just teaching research. And we were like, that's stupid, because like you should not pay to learn something that is available for free online. Matlab, you can learn it yourself. You just need like someone to guide you. Uske liye paying because already it's an expensive journey. And imagine paying $700-800 just to learn research. Like it makes no sense, right? So we realized that, and there was a trend happening, and we saw some of our own friends paying and learning, and nothing happened. They never learned eventually. We just got 1 or 2 publications, but वो learning का proceed curve ही नहीं था. So we thought कि चलो, let's do this for free, because like we were both in a space at that time where we had enough time to dedicate towards this. So we had to weekends पे let's conduct classes, let's do it for free for medical students. Let's help as many people as we can. We can't help everyone because there are so many people applying, but as
obvious।
many people as we can, and like let's try to make a difference. So that was how we started Auto.
पूरी टीम लगती होगी ना, बिकॉज जैसे सेफ स्पेस हो गया, ऑटो रिसर्च इनिशिएटिव हो गया, बट बिकॉज एक जन से हैंडल नहीं होगा ना ये सब, तो फिर
So there
इसकी।
are 2 of us, and we make teams. So matlab, if we have like so we have like a lot of people applying. So I think we have almost 2,000 applications already, and so it is like that's why I said like we cannot promise to help everyone, but we, as much as we can, we are taking in applicants, because it's just 2 of us. The reason we are not having a huge team is because the quality of education will not be the same, right? So with me and him, we work on like the Zoom call together, so we know, okay, what we are teaching, it's correct, right? So we can like, so it's easier for us to work with teams directly and make sure that everyone's doing like like working correctly and working on the paper accurately. If there's any problems, they can always reach out to us. So that personalized touch is there. So we didn't want to branch out and make it like make having 10-15 people, because the problem with that is, again, you will not be able to ensure the quality, and it just becomes a mess after a while, because you are not directly involved with the team, and then you don't know what's happening, and if there's a problem or if the paper is not getting published, then you have to go and delete everything all over again. So it's just like it's easier if there's just 2 of us handling it. So that's why it's a bit like, so we only take in like 5 teams a month. So that's like I want to say 30 people a month. So it's like 5 teams, and we make the teams accordingly. We make like teams of 5 to 6 people in each specialty, neurology, internal medicine, or pediatrics, and we work with them personally. Like we have Zoom calls with them, we teach them, and if they have any doubts, they reach out to us, and we're always happy to help. So like I said, I want people to be excited about research, because I feel like a lot of people feel like research is boring, and they feel कि मतलब इतनी लिखना है तो So I feel like there is a lot of it which is quite interesting, but it depends on your perspective. It depends on how you see it. So I want to change that. I want people to like realize that research is actually fun, and you
मैं
know
उन्हीं
that
में
is.
से एक हूँ, मैं उन्हीं में से एक हूँ जो बोरिंग लगता है।
No, I feel that because when I was in med school, so वो PSM के project में मेरे को बहुत boring था. I was like, ये क्या है? मतलब कितनी data collection है? What are we doing? It was so haphazard, right? But then like I realized like after a while that you can actually make it interesting if you're doing it in a field that you actually like, and you're very interested in the topic. उसके time पे it actually becomes very interesting for you to actually read the papers and be like, अच्छा मतलब ये नए protocol आया है, there's a new treatment for it, new drug for it. What is the rate of success, or like how does it compare to like a normal like standardized treatment or drug? So in that way it can get interesting, but like it's like it depends on the perspective, I guess. So yeah.
सही है। मतलब ये आपके अभी फिलहाल तो 2 ही ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, मतलब ऑटो रिसर्च इनिशिएटिव, सेफ हाउस, या और कोई?
Yeah.
ये तो
No,
अच्छा।
it's just safe space and
अच्छा,
auto. Yeah.
ये एक चीज लिखी थी, रिसर्च स्कॉलर HMS, ये हार्वर्ड मेडिकल स्कूल वाला चलता है ना, तो क्या था वो, मतलब वो क्या, मतलब नहीं समझ में आया था, क्या था वो?
So you can so basically you can apply to be a Wikidoc research scholar. So Wikidoc is basically like a form of Wikipedia for the medical fraternity.
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा
So
अच्छा।
it's basically Wikipedia for medicine, right? So that's what Wikidoc is. And so Wikidoc you can apply. So if you have a research background and you want to write, right? And because it's basically like you are writing scientific articles, you can't write something on your own Wikipedia, right? You have to cite in Wikipedia if you see the articles. वो citations होता है after 3 to 3 seconds because you're referring. So if you have a base with scientific writing, so there is a group at Harvard which runs the Wiki doc research scholar page. So you can contact them, and if they find a profile useful and they find that you can definitely write, so you write for Wikipedia and then Wikidoc, and then you can actually write articles on the newest like medical diseases. For example, now monkeypox is coming, so कितने सारे नए चीजें you're getting to know about monkeypox because until now we never heard of monkeypox, right? अभी वो it's spreading, and then you're like, okay, मतलब what is monkeypox? First thing you'll do is you'll Google it. So you need to make sure that someone who's writing the article has like a good scientific knowledge and they know how to cite, and you shouldn't cite the wrong things like that. So basically, you can write for Wikidoc, and that's like I thought that was a good opportunity to have. And like I said, I really like writing, so it's something that I always wanted to do also in my spare time. So I applied with them, and that was that's how I got it.
सही है। पहले
Yeah,
रिसर्च
it's a good
पेपर,
organization.
पहले रिसर्च पेपर लिखना सीखे, उसके बाद फिर हार्वर्ड वालों के साथ, मतलब विकीडॉक जो रिसर्च
Yeah,
स्कॉलर है
and
अभी
it
आप
is
वहाँ।
directly associated with
हाँ,
Harvard.
और
So,
सबसे
we
सही,
have like team meetings.
हाँ, एक पूरा रेपुटेशन होती है ना, हार्वर्ड की एक अच्छी खासी रेपुटेशन है, तो होता है कि हाँ एक
Yeah.
रहता है सीन।
Yeah.
सही
So
है।
it's like you have team meetings with like the team at Harvard who help you write the articles and stuff. So, it's a really good like association, and it's a good way of learning new things as well. And you will meet so many people from all over the world. So in that way also, it's really nice. And the team meetings are not that frequent. It's once or twice in a month, or like maybe more than that. So it's not like you have to spend every day writing, but like it's a nice way to communicate and get to know. And also you get up to date with like more medical knowledge. So in that way, it's good.
सही है, आपके कनेक्शंस भी अच्छे बन रहे होते हैं उस टाइम पे, बिकॉज वही है ना कि एक ग्रुप में है तो कुछ तो होगा ही, कि अगर कोई पेपर अकेले तो, या कोई आर्टिकल अकेले लिख रहा है तो होगा नहीं, कोई ना कोई ऐड होगा साथ में, तो एक अच्छा खासा एनवायरनमेंट बन जाता है एक ढंग के बंदों।
Correct. And most of the people there will also be applying to residency, or like they'll be in the similar part. So always you'll be meeting new people, which is fun, which is a nice way.
अच्छा, तो फिर जैसे आप यूएस गए, जैसे पहले कोई था यूएस में, या फिर आप फर्स्ट अपने घर, मतलब फैमिली से पहली बार हैं, या कोई पहले था उधर?
No, so my first time in the US was for my clerkship only. Like I have family here, but like not like yeah, I have like my cousin was working in Chicago the first time I came. So I stayed with him because it was my first time in the US, so I didn't want to stay alone. And I do have some immediate family in Austin and Texas. So I don't, but it's not everywhere. It's like in two cities. So uske baad, like I'll have to like see now my cousin has moved. So he's not in Chicago anymore. So I'm currently staying at an apartment that I rented.
Okay.
So it's like the first time I came, I made sure that I stayed with someone, and because it takes time, right, to get used to like the system here, and even like buying like even a small thing like groceries, metro card, to travel and all. You need like someone to like just help you with the basics. So in that way, I was like first time I would always recommend to stay with someone, if possible. And once you're like used to it, I think second, third trip so you can manage and go. You're used to the whole system that
अच्छा,
time.
तो बेसिक प्रॉब्लम्स क्या आती है? जैसे आपके तो भाई आपका एक सपोर्ट सिस्टम था वहाँ पे, जानने वाले हैं, टेक्सास में है, मतलब लाइक जैसे इंडिया है तो मतलब ठीक है, आप दिल्ली में है तो एमपी या कर्नाटका में कोई जानने वाला है, ठीक है, चलेगा। बट जो जो नहीं होते, जैसे एक कोई फ्रेश बंदा जा रहा है जिसका नहीं है जानने वाला, तो उसके लिए भी कोई दिक्कतें तो आती होगी। जैसे एक तो आपने कहा कि आप उस सिस्टम को समझने में, जैसे आपके पास एक बैकअप था, आपके कजिन्स थे तो उन्होंने पूरा आपको चीजें बता दिया कि हाँ ये ऐसा ऐसा
Mhm.
ऐसा है। बट नए बंदों के साथ कोई दिक्कत, कोई स्पेसिफिक दिक्कत होती है या फिर हो जाता है एडजस्ट?
No, I think the main problem first is like finding a place to stay, because if you don't know anyone, you will need a good place to stay. वो problem है, because you can't trust anything you find online, because कुछ you book online, you come here, if it's not safe, what will you do? Because पूरे month you have to stay here, right? So I would always recommend like the website Airbnb, because Airbnb में you find houses and उसमें reviews होते हैं. So उसमें like it's quite reasonably priced rather than renting your own apartment through a third party. Like Airbnb में it is directly through the company, right? So you do make a booking through Airbnb. कुछ cancellation है तो they will only refund the money. So it's like at least you have that sense of security कि Airbnb के साथ मैंने book किया है. So first time I was like, if you don't have, like if you're not very sure where to stay, I think Airbnb is the safest option. And like always read the reviews. And I think the main problem would be definitely safety, because like not every area of US is safe, and we feel that way. We're like, no, we're like from India, मतलब हो जाता है, we will manage. But वो नहीं है, because there are places where you still feel very unsafe. There are places where you are plus you're new, right? You're new to the city. You don't know okay, which is a good area, which is not a safe area, where there is a high crime rate. So it takes time for you to get used to these things. So for that, like that is the biggest hurdle that you'll have to face. That you'll have to be very safe, even if you're taking public transport. Like sometimes if a bus is empty or if a train is empty, it's better not to go into that, because if something happens, then like there's no witness, there's no one there, right? So it's always like better for you to like keep yourself safe. And for that, I think that is the biggest hurdle that you'll have to overcome while you're here, because you'll be here alone unless you're coming with 4 or 5 people together. The coming alone for rotations, it's something that you will have to figure out everything on your own. Like how do you get groceries, how do you cook your own meals, sare ki sare. So that is something that I feel is a hurdle that you'll have to face, and that you will learn with time. Like it's not that it's so difficult, but it does take time. That's the thing, right? Even the smallest thing you'll have to ask and go and do things. So that is a problem. I think major is safety. Like if you get a good place to stay in, and like if you I think that is pretty much like you are sorted with that. So if you get a good place near the hospital, and you so travel भी कम हो जाएगा. Otherwise you have to keep paying for Uber, and वो भी महंगा हो जाता है. So if you get a good place near the hospital, so you can walk and go. That way it's a good way you
एक
can
है
make
तो
yourself safe and save money.
हॉस्पिटल्स वालों को खुद का भी तो रहता होगा सिस्टम, कि हाँ अगर इन द केस जो बाहर के बंदे हैं उनके लिए खुद का हॉस्टल टाइप कुछ।
No, hai, but it's usually for their own medical students. So
अच्छा
unless
अच्छा।
like they have any vacancies, it's rare that they'll give it for visiting students. But you can definitely ask. नहीं तो they'll only recommend कि मतलब हमारे
स्टूडेंट कहाँ रहते हैं?
hospital के there is nearby, there are
हाँ
हाँ कहाँ रहते हैं. So you will get recommendation from somewhere. No, and plus ये कितने सारे forums है, Reddit है, कितने सारे forums है online where you can ask questions, and someone who has rotated there will tell you कि नहीं यहाँ में I stayed here, it was good, or I stayed here, it was not good, you stay somewhere else. So information online मिल जाता है. So in that way, like you'll always get information, but like always coming up for the first time is a bit like it's like if you don't have family, or I understand it is going to be quite like hectic to actually move in here. मतलब कितनी लंबी फ्लाइट के बाद तू यहाँ आ रही है अकेले रह रहे. So it's going to take some time to like figure out the system now. But yeah, that is one hurdle that I think almost every student faces.
एक तो लोगों की एक धारणा भी तो रहती है कि यार वहाँ हर कोई बंदूक लेके घूम रहा है, कब पता नहीं कौन निकाल
हाँ
दे।
Why? So that's what I'm saying. कितने सारे लोग बोलते हैं ना कि ना US will be very safe as compared to India. वो there are quite unsafe areas in every city. Every city has its pros and cons. So you cannot like go around at 2 in the night, and like you expect to be safe. वो नहीं होता है. No city in the world is completely safe, right? So in that way, you have to keep your wits about with you. You have to make sure that you're not carrying a lot of money because what if like. So वो सारी चीज like you have to make sure that you're very in that way you keep yourself safe. So that is like something that I feel like a lot of people have to face.
फिर भी जैसे शिकागो हो गए, न्यूयॉर्क हो गए, सब तो काफी मतलब हमेशा चलते फिरते रहने वाले, लाइक मुंबई टाइप हो गए कि हमेशा एक्टिव सिटी है, तो हो सकता है शायद यहाँ क्राइम
No,
रेट कम
that's
हो।
not true. No. Chicago has, I think, one of the highest crime rates. So it's like you
अच्छा,
feel that way. Ki, that's what I said. Like when I came, I was like, nahi, matlab, hum India se, so why would we feel scared about like going to a different country? But it's not that way because like every city has its good areas and bad areas. Like there are some areas that are not very well developed, and there are instances of gun violence or instances like more instances of robberies and active crime. So this is something that you will learn once you move to the city, and you hear it from people who are staying here. They tell you, avoid that area. A lot of people get robbed there, or this area is safe. It's a good area to stay, like stuff like that. So in that way, yeah. And even New York, for example, I stayed in New York for quite some time, and I did realize that there were areas where I was told not to go alone at night, right? Because it is like not very safe. And there are areas where you can definitely, even at 2 or 3 in the morning, it's so busy, like in Manhattan, and you won't feel like it's like midnight also. Like so, it depends. So every city has its pros and cons.
तो हालात इंडिया वाला ही है, हर जगह का वही सेम है।
हाँ, मतलब
क्या
I feel like every city in the world ऐसे ही होता है. Like I don't think there is any difference when it comes to safety. Everywhere it is the same.
सेफ्टी आपके हाथ में ही है कि आप चीजें संभाल
Exactly.
कैसे रहे, किस सेक्शन में आप जा रहे हैं, क्योंकि एटलीस्ट इतना आइडिया तो हो ही जाता है कि हाँ ये थोड़ा है सिस्टम से सही है। अच्छा,
Exactly. So I think, uh-huh.
नहीं बोलिए बोलिए आप।
No, I was saying, I think any city in the world you go to, वो problem रहती है. So I think like to कहीं भी like you can go to Europe, you can go to US. कहाँ पे भी safety is like in your hands. Like you can't say the city is safe. There'll always be like a safe and unsafe path. So you have to make sure that you are like vigilant. You know कि मतलब you
अच्छा,
have
तो
your safety in
अभी
control.
आपने मतलब आपकी रेजिडेंसी स्टार्ट हो गई या होने वाली है? रिजल्ट्स आ रहे हैं, स्टेप 3 के आने बाकी है?
No, step 3 का result आने वाले हैं, उसके बाद I'm going to apply this September. So I will mostly be starting next March. So I
अच्छा
told you
अच्छा,
ना, so the cycle is from September to March. So
हाँ
September
सर।
to March बीच में interviews होते हैं. So once you're done with the interviews, you'll get to know if you're matched and where you're matched, and they will give you all the details. And once you get matched, you will have to apply for the visa, whether the J1 or the H1B, and then you can like completely.
अच्छा,
So
वीजा वाला अभी भी वैसे ही चल रहा है जैसे डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प के टाइम पे था, या फिर चेंज किया इन्होंने? HB1 वीजा था ना शायद, कुछ था नाटक लंबा सा इनका।
yeah. So basically, there was a lot of problem. I think now the problem is coming down. But वो क्या हुआ था, इंडिया के एम्बेसीज में बहुत बैकअप हुई थी visas के लिए because of the whole COVID situation. So अभी भी a lot of people are having trouble getting visas. So I think now it's getting better. Hopefully by next year it should be back to mid-normal, if not normal. So last 2 years was a bit of hassle. Like I don't think a lot of people got even tourist visa because इतनी backup थी visa के लिए, because so many people were applying. So they didn't have and embassy was not working for an entire year, right? So once they started, it took them a while to start like catching up. So I think abhi it's becoming better. So I think mostly by next year it should be fine.
मतलब वो ये कि अब धीरे धीरे चीजें सुधरेंगी, बट वो ये कि सब मुझे लग रहा है सब जिस हिसाब से आप बता रहे हैं उसमें सबसे पहले वीजा रेडी कर ले, उसके बाद ये चीजें हो, या फिर स्टेप 2 स्टेप 3 का लेटर आ जाए तब वीजा के लिए अप्लाई करना कब सबसे सही होगा? मतलब वन
I
लाइनर
feel
कहें
like
तो कि वीजा के लिए
uh-huh.
सबसे सही टाइम क्या होगा अप्लाई करने के लिए, जब
सबसे
चांस?
सही टाइम ऐसे नहीं होता. लाइक आई थिंक
अच्छा
व्हेन यू गेट द चांस यू अप्लाई, बिकॉज द थिंग इज लाइक वीजा का प्रोसेस ही कितने लंबे है ना. इवन इफ यू वांट अ B1 B2 visa, you apply and then you have to get an appointment, then you have to travel there and get your biometrics and everything, and उसके लिए भी you have to fill the form, and then you have to get वो आपकी acceptance letter from clerkship if you're going for clerkship. ऐसे होता है. Some people apply based on step 3 also, because step 3 is some exam that you have to take only in the US, so you can't take it anywhere else. So they take that letter also and they go. So there are lots of reasons for applying, but you it's always better if you know you want to take the USMLE pathway, to apply for the B1 B2 visa in advance. Because see, if you get it early, it's well and good, because it's a 10-year B1 B2 visa, so you can use it for 10 years, right? So it's not like it'll get over. So, but it's always better to get it earlier than later, because what if you're done with your steps and you're not getting a visa appointment? You have to do your clerkships, right? So uske time pe you will be stuck. So it's always better to apply in advance.
लेकिन इसके लिए मारामारी भी तो बहुत है, मतलब एक तो ये लीगल रास्ते से जा भी रहे हैं, पर अभी एक वो चलता था, डोंकिंग चलती थी, अब चल रही की पता नहीं, बट 1-2 साल पहले आती थी कि लोग पनामा के जंगलों के होते हुए मैक्सिको के थ्रू तार के नीचे से फिर चले जाते थे, वहां खुद को अरेस्ट करा लेते थे, डोंकिंग वाला। स्पेसिफिकली पंजाब वाले सेक्शन में ये बहुत था, वो बहुत खतरा वाला रास्ता था, मतलब उसमें
even through Canada, I think recently someone died because of that. They tried to go through Canada and then they, because it was so cold, that they died. So because वही है ना कि वीजा के कितने प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं आजकल, and like वो मिल ही नहीं रहा है, so people are just doing, it's scary.
अरे उसमें आप जाएंगे यूट्यूब पे, बहुत सारी या फिर नेटफ्लिक्स पे बहुत सारी सीरीज पड़ी होती है कि हाँ मतलब कि यूएस जाने के लिए क्या क्या कर रहे होते हैं, बिकॉज जंगलों में चल रहे हैं 10-10 दिन, टैंकर के बीच में से जा रहे हैं, बहुत
Exactly. बहुत weird होते हैं. Like I'm like why? Exactly. एग्जैक्टली, मतलब आराम से वेट करो, वीजा मिल जाएगा. मतलब इतना नहीं है कि मतलब इतनी जंगल कितनी वो इलीगली, बिकॉज वंस यू क्रॉस, वंस देयर हियर, तो मतलब बॉर्डर सिक्योरिटी कितनी स्ट्रिक्ट है कि वंस समथिंग इट इज गॉन, लाइक यू कैन नेवर एंटर द कंट्री अगेन. कुछ इलीगल तो इट इज सो स्ट्रिक्ट, एंड व्हाई वुड पीपल डू दैट? इट्स स्टूपिड.
सामने नहीं मिल पा रहा होता है ना, बार बार रिजेक्ट हो रहा है, तो फिर कहते हैं चलो.
हाँ वो भी है टू बी ऑनेस्ट. या रिजेक्शन रेट इज क्वाइट हाई. वो एक प्रॉब्लम है.
जैसे एक डॉक्टर्स, अब सोचो मेडिकल फील्ड में रिजेक्शन रेट एक है अच्छा खासा, तो फिर वो जनरल अगर मतलब लेबर सेक्शन में जिन्हें जाना होगा उनके लिए तो बहुत ही ज्यादा हाई है ना रिजेक्शन.
Definitely. At least I think if you're a doctor and you know, वो थोड़ा मतलब I think it's better, but like yeah, like I feel like especially if you're going to visit your children or something, ना उसके टाइम पे वो थोड़ा rejection ज्यादा होती है, because they're just worried कि मतलब तू why settle मत हो जा वैसे, because you're on a tourist visa ना, you can't immigrate there, so that is like an issue I think we're a bit worried about.
तो अच्छा, अभी इस टाइम कोई टीवी सीरीज वगैरह देखने, कोई रिकमेंडेशंस होगी? टीवी सीरीज, म्यूजिक?
TV series, so honestly, like I watch, like I don't like watching like long seasons वाली TV series because मेरे पास टाइम ही नहीं होता है. So I watch these which एक weekend में खत्म होने वाले, वो ऐसे. So I think recently what did I watch? I like Euphoria बहुत मस्त है. I was watching that. एक और series है वो Hotstar में, I think India में है. It's called The White Lotus. It's just one season, 8 episodes, but बहुत मस्त TV series है. I think it's basically like a kind of a, it's like a fiction, but it really talks about like social classes and like economy and everything. So it gives you like a nice perspective of that. So it's a good TV series to watch. And I think I like Black Mirror Netflix में. Watch it. And
ब्लैक मिरर तो अच्छा है, ब्लैक मिरर बेस्ट. ब्लैक मिरर लव डेथ रिपोर्ट, क्योंकि ब्लैक मिरर उन्होंने बंद कर दिया, लव डेथ रिपोर्ट ही निकाल लें, बट उनके 12-15 मिनट के, 12-15 मिनट के होते हैं लव डेथ रिपोर्ट.
Exactly. So you know, it's like a nice break. Exactly. So when you're like bored, you can watch like just 1 or 2 episodes. Yeah, I don't like watching these bade lambi seasons because I will just get hooked and then I will not do any work. I will just keep watching. So I just watch these small seasons, so like 5-6 episodes wala seasons. So at least even if I'm watching, वो खत्म हो जाता है. So in that way. Well, I think these are the common ones. I don't remember anything new. वो Squid Game अच्छी थी. I think I started watching a bit more.
सबने देख रखी है Squid Game, क्योंकि वो सही थी. इधर कोरियन ड्रामा चल रहा है, अच्छा खासा चल रहा है इंडिया.
हाँ, I think अभी Netflix में बहुत सारे कोरियन ड्रामास आने वाले हैं because of Squid Game and उसकी सक्सेस की वजह.
अभी ये मनी हाइस्ट के लड़के भी कुछ कोरियन सही बना रहे हैं. उनका भाई एक बन चुकी दोबारा क्यों बना रहे हो?
But I think उसका भी कोई अलग होता है. Money Heist भी ठीक था. I think I watched 4 seasons. Yeah.
मैंने सारे देखे थे. कॉलेज में ना सब कुछ देख सकते हैं.
Exactly. So I think like these are like the common ones. I don't watch anything different. I think the Hotstar में कुछ there are good different because HBO Max होता है ना Hotstar. So I think उसमें I think it has a lot of different like unique shows. So there's one called Watchmen, वो भी बहुत अच्छा है.
अभी वो आ रहा है, एक प्रीक्वल बना रहे थे गेम ऑफ थ्रोन पे लोग, हाउस ऑफ ड्रैगन करके समझ. अभी एक एपिसोड शायद आया है. उनका भाई अभी हाइप अभी बनी नहीं है, बट बना देंगे वो हाइप इसकी. टाइम के साथ।
yeah. So I think वो ठीक है. So I think like you get to see a lot of like these different things on Hotstar as compared to Netflix. Netflix में सारे देखते हैं everyone, but like Hotstar में I think it has अलग वाली
उसके पास अच्छा, हाँ मतलब कलेक्शन भी अच्छा है। जैसे अभी मैं देख रहा था
collection different है.
अभी स्केप
हाँ, you wouldn't know.
लाइव करके देख रहा था, स्केप लाइव करके, मतलब रील्स का ही था कि क्या हो सकता है, मतलब सही होता है उनके। अब इससे ब्लैक मिरर होता है, एक एक्सट्रीम वर्जन दिखा दिया कि भाई क्या बुरा हो सकता है टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ।
हाँ, वो ब्लैक मिरर की तरह.
कभी एंडिंग अच्छी नहीं दिखी मुझे, आज तक कभी नहीं दिखी। बैंडरस्नैच एक गेम खिला रहे थे वो, जो बैंडरस्नैच वाला जो एपिसोड निकाला
Yeah,
था कि
Bandersnatch. हाँ, that was an
टिक
interactive
करते
movie.
रहो, सारे एंडिंग उसकी भी साइड ही बेकारी होती है। हैप्पी एंडिंग मुझे कहीं दिखी नहीं बैंडरस्नैच की, 6-7
वो
एंडिंग है।
नहीं है. I think happy ending नहीं है वो. पूरे मूवी में ऐसे whatever you play you end up with some weird ending. वो ब्लैक मिरर का आई थिंक स्टैंडर्ड ही है कि कुछ ना कुछ हो जाए, लास्ट में कुछ गड़बड़ी होने वाला है.
वन इंडिया, जैसे इंडिया में अनुराग कश्यप की ज्यादा मूवियां होती थी पहले कि डार्क ही रहेगा, कुछ ना
हाँ
कुछ
हाँ,
उल्टा पुल्टा ही होगा।
एग्जैक्टली ऐसे ही है.
अब ब्लैक मिरर बंद हुआ तो ये वाला चालू होगा, लव डज रोबोट, इसका भी वैसा ही है। अंत में ऐसे रोबोट वाला एक सीन आता है, कोई एक पहले एपिसोड में सीजन में दिखाया, फिर अभी 20 मई को आया है, 20 मई को लॉन्च हो, वो भी देखा मैं। अब सही होता है,
वो भी मस्त है. एग्जैक्टली. सो या it was I think these are like chill ones. Yeah, मतलब I think I don't watch a lot of shows related to medicine because I feel like मतलब if I'm switching off I will watch something different. मतलब फिर से मेडिकल वाले shows मेरे को नहीं देखना है. मतलब I want to see
यार
something like
नहीं मन
opposite.
होता है,
like
नहीं
ये
मन
Grey's
होता है।
Anatomy ये सारी चीज मैं नहीं देखती हूँ because like I feel like मतलब फिर से वही चीज देखने के लिए and then I'm studying the same thing.
दिन भर
नहीं,
वही
I'd
कर रहे हो,
rather
शाम
watch
को
something.
आके भी वही देख रहे हो, दिन भर
हाँ,
वही कर रहे हैं, शाम को वही देख
exactly.
रहे हैं, क्या मतलब है। मैं कुछ थोड़ा
Exactly. So मतलब पूरा different ही देखना है पहले. So at least you feel different after watching it.
सही है, बढ़िया। नार्कोस देखो, गांजा फूक के, बढ़िया।
हाँ, exactly.
म्यूजिक
वही
म्यूजिक के
बेस्ट है.
लिए, म्यूजिक के लिए कोई, जैसे अभी तो
Basically,
मुझे अब लग रहा है
I
कोल्ड प्ले
really
आपका फेवरेट था या उस टाइम अवेलेबल था शिकागो में?
नहीं, I love Coldplay. I've always listened to Coldplay. Like when I was studying, I think like Coldplay was like it's very soothing to you. मतलब इतनी भी high level music नहीं है कि मतलब you start having a headache. So it's a nice. They have nice two songs. Coldplay I like Imagine Dragons. वो बहुत मस्त है. I like Ed
इमेजिन
Sheeran songs.
रेडियो
I like
एक्टिव।
Taylor Swift. हाँ, exactly.
लेकिन इमेजिन
And
ड्रैगन
अभी
के
recently.
इमेजिन ड्रैगन के शांत गाने तो नहीं होते, उनके तो लाउड
हाँ.
गाने होते हैं ना।
Loud गाने होते, but that's good to vibe with sometimes.
हाँ
You know, when you want to like pump yourself up to study,
हाँ,
ऐसे Imagine Dragons में चलता है. And Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift, ये सारे मतलब I listen to all the mainstream singers. कुछ अलग बैंड नहीं
नहीं नहीं, सही है
है.
सही
सारे
है।
mainstream
मैं
से आए होंगे.
यूएसएमएलई करके काफी अलग कर लिया है। तो अब जरूरत नहीं
नहीं
है।
नहीं, I just like वो कुछ different नहीं है. मतलब what
नहीं नहीं,
everyone listens to on Spotify में वही सुनती हूँ.
सही है, अच्छा है। स्पॉटिफाई सही चीज है, स्पेसिफिकली पॉडकास्ट के लिए बहुत सही चीज
Yeah,
है।
definitely.
जैसे मैं
Yeah, definitely,
पहले मैं
definitely.
सुनता था जो रोगन पॉडकास्ट करके था, अब तो बंद कर दिया, अब तो मैंने कहा बहुत हो गया, कुछ
Yeah,
चेंज
yeah,
में। बट जो रोगन काफी सही था,
yeah.
क्यों अपना
Yeah, true
ईयरफोन
crime
लगा।
podcast बहुत है. हाँ, true crime वाला I think they have a lot of these murder mysteries. वो बहुत अच्छे होते हैं. Randomly सुनने के लिए वो मतलब it's those podcasts are nice.
अब अपना काम करते रहो, साइड में चला दो स्पीकर पे, ठीक है, अपना चल रहा होता है।
Exactly. वो मस्त है. Chalo,
तो
thank you
फिर
so much, Ravi. And I was saying that, like, honestly, it's a great thing that you started this podcast because I feel like a lot of Indian students need a podcast to listen about various things. So it need not just be about your studies or kuch bhi. It's just a nice, innovative way of making people listen and learn about the new things, what's happening, what are the new pathways where you can do your like PG or anything, right? Or just learn about like medical issues in general. Like there's so many ways where you can just have a podcast and you can like it's just passive listening, but it's a great idea because I feel like there's something that was needed for the medical field, and there's something that I was very inspired by when I saw your profile. So it's an amazing idea, and please don't stop. Like keep it up, keep inviting more people, and keep doing it because I'm pretty sure that it's going to be like a really really good hit, like all the way through. So it's really amazing.
थैंक यू फॉर दिस, थैंक यू फॉर द कॉम्प्लीमेंट। इतनी कॉम्प्लीमेंट तो मुझे कभी ना मिली, स्पेशली पॉडकास्ट पे तो कभी नहीं। बट ओके, थैंक
नहीं,
यू
बहुत मस्त है, सीरियसली इट्स अ ग्रेट आइडिया.
ओके, थैंक यू फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस और ऑल द बेस्ट स्टेप 3 के लिए। बहुत ही अच्छा।
थैंक यू.
मतलब फिर टारगेट क्या है, कौन सा मतलब कहाँ जाना चाह रहे हैं? शिकागो में भी ज्वाइन करने का प्लान है? हॉस्पिटल
No, New
मतलब
York. I hopefully New York. That
न्यूयॉर्क।
is my plan. होपफुली,
Well,
बिकॉज आई लाइक द सिटी, बहुत अच्छे है, बट देखते हैं मेरे को मतलब उसके बाद आई डोंट नो, आई एम ओके विद एनीथिंग बट
हाँ
ट्राइंग माय बेस्ट।
एक टारगेट होता है ना, हमें नीट की
हाँ
तैयारी दे रहे होते हैं, बट ये होता था कि हाँ एम्स मिल जाए तो बेहतर ही है ना, क्या दिक्कत है।
एग्जैक्टली
अब ये
वो मतलब थोड़ा गोल्स होता है, लाइक
हाँ
वही तो,
गोल्स,
फॉर मी इट्स लाइक न्यूयॉर्क,
सबके
आई वांट टू
स्पेसिफिक
स्टे
होते
इन
हैं।
न्यूयॉर्क।
हाँ, अब जैसे
हाँ
बहुत लोग के होते हैं
सो
वाशिंगटन डीसी, उनका रहता है कि हाँ वाशिंगटन डीसी चल रहा है,
हाँ
आपका न्यूयॉर्क
वो भी
से है।
अच्छा है, बट
अब
या
अब जैसे
लाइक
मैं कुछ लोग को जानना कि
प्रेफरेबली
उनका ये होता है कि नहीं शिकागो ही जाएंगे, रघुराम राजन वही है, वही हम भी वही जाएंगे। उनका भाई ये क्या लॉजिक हो, कौन सा वो तुमसे मिलने आ रहा है, बट उनका होता है कि हाँ यार वो जगह सही है शिकागो, तो सबका अपना अपना स्पेसिफिक गोल रहता है।
प्रायोरिटीज,
तो अभी
एग्जैक्टली,
ऑल द बेस्ट फॉर न्यूयॉर्क। वैसे भी हम मूवी
थैंक यू।
सीरीज में न्यूयॉर्क ही देख रहे होते हैं, सारी एवेंजर वही हो रही है,
हाँ
वही लड़ी जा रही है।
एग्जैक्टली, एग्जैक्टली सो मतलब वो देखने आप जस्ट
हाँ
लाइक नहीं, मेरे को वही रहना है, सो होपफुली
हाँ,
लेट्स सी क्या मिलते हैं।
न्यूयॉर्क को तबाह होते ही मैंने देख लिया, 6-7 बार तो देख ही लिया है मूवी। सबसे पहले न्यूयॉर्क ही
हाँ
गायब होता है।
हाँ वही तो, सारे मतलब एवेंजर्स की मूवी में एवरी एवरी मॉन्स्टर विल अटैक न्यूयॉर्क ओनली, मतलब
न्यूयॉर्क
सारे सुपर विलेन की वही टारगेट होती है,
नहीं,
सो
सही
दैट
है,
इज फन, या।
ठीक है, ऑल द बेस्ट।